Sunday Mail with red faces after Red Nose Day, Aideen.
So Comic Relief raises millions less last year, despite star-studded show that saw Davina McCall break down in tears. So they've raised 4 million less than last year. And Davina McCall, she broke down in tears. The presenter endured a 6-hour operation to remove 14mm colloid cyst from her brain. I mean, that's some stunt to do on live TV, and she still didn't manage to get the money from it. Yeah. It's such a pity. I mean, imagine going through that operation live. No, I mean, obviously this is because people have less money, the quality of life has gone down drastically. I was in Weston-super-Mare on Saturday.
No, that's not what it's about at all. This is because of the quality of the comedians on Comic Relief. Absolutely. Have you seen them? They're absolute garbage. And this is because the woke panjandrums that run the comedy scene, and you'll both attest to this, they've come in and they've ruined comedy. It used to be me and Nick doing... We were weekend headliners at the Comedy Store. Yeah. And now they've got, you know, whoever it is who's rubbish.
Different times. I'm amazed Comic Relief is still going. I thought it only existed to give Lenny Henry work. And I didn't know it was still on. It's like the Oscars. It's like, is anyone still watching this rubbish?
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, we've got the Sunday Telegraph now, and a computerised fat-shaming filter has been banned, so we're going to have to go back to pointing and laughing, Nick.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, this one. Fat-shaming filter removed from TikTok over mental health concerns. So it's a fat-shaming filter to make people look obese. So why would you put it on why would you want to put the filter on to make... I don't really get it. People put it before and after. I guess they're using it as a kind of joke. I don't quite get it. But someone made a good point the other day that since Ozempic came out, the whole body positivity movement is over. Because now celebrities just want to be thin. They're like, oh, I'm so body positive, but like 6 weeks later, you don't hear from them. They come back really thin. You should all still be fat, though. That's great. I'm taking loads of dangerous drugs. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because it's made it easy to be... Before, it was easy to be fat. Now it's easy to be thin. Now we've got these drugs.
It's true. I mean, this is, again, the world has to change for you to live in it. I mean, I'm an alcoholic, and, you know, I can't go around being alcoholic positive. And I do genuinely believe if you're very obese, you have the addiction that I have. But you can't ask the world to change for you. You have to deal with it. It's this very serious illness. And maybe you have to
People are still going to offer you... They're going to offer you a biscuit.
Yeah, they're going to offer you a biscuit. They're going to do fat filters. I mean, I'd love... I mean, I don't even drink liquid. I just put Vaseline on my tongue. That's how triggered I get.
OK. Well, that's it. The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at tomorrow's front pages. The Sunday Mail leads with Met Police's craven surrender to the BLM mob. The Observer has all families to be worse off by 2030 as poor bear the brunt. The Sunday Express has asylum crisis wrecking our communities. The Sunday Times has revealed the giant fraud in student loans. The Telegraph has Reeves takes axe to civil service, and the Daily Star has horror snorri. And that's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests, Aideen and Nick. I will be back tomorrow at 11 p.m, joined by Steve N. Allen and Lewis Schaefer. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then do stay tuned for breakfast, and I hope to see you tomorrow night. Have a great one. Cheers.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Changeable conditions continuing across the rest of the weekend with further heavy showers in place, but we will start to see rain easing across northern areas. However, low pressure is still very much in charge of our weather through the rest of the weekend. So this weather front here that gradually starts to ease the rain across northern parts of the UK, but further south there will still be some outbreaks of rain through the rest of Saturday evening. Where we've seen any of those heavier showers through Saturday afternoon, they'll gradually start to ease or push their way northwards, merging into longer spells of rain for parts of northern England and eastern Scotland too, but Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland turning drier. However, with lots of cloud around, that does mean a very mild night to come, 10 or 11 degrees across the very far south. There will be some brightness to start across the very far south of England through the first part of the morning, but further north, a much cloudier picture to start the day, particularly across eastern parts of Scotland, continuing to see those outbreaks of rain through the morning, maybe even the odd flake of sleet and snow over any high ground. Northwest Scotland and western parts of Northern Ireland seeing a bit of brightness, but eastern parts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of England and North Wales generally much cloudier. Some outbreaks of rain here and perhaps some brightness across the very far southwest and eastern parts of England too. That rain across the northern half of the country gradually starting to ease as we go through Sunday daytime, gradually easing by the time we get to the afternoon. And in the south, where we do see some sunshine, likely to see some showers bubbling up through the afternoon. Again, these could be quite heavy, perhaps thundery in places, some hail mixed in there, so there could be some surface water issues. And it'll be a very mild day again, 17, 18, perhaps 19 degrees in the south, and temperatures still above average further north. Starting the day on Monday, much drier and brighter start, particularly across Northern Ireland and much of Scotland. Plenty of sunshine around, but quite a bit of cloud across England and Wales, although that gradually easing as we go through the daytime. So a dry day for many of us. However, that weather front soon arriving across the northwest. High pressure then remains in charge as we go through next week, so generally turning more settled for all of us, and temperatures a little above average.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Chancellor takes an axe to the civil service.
Rachel Reeves is set to slash more than £2 billion from government departments, and that could see tens of thousands of people apparently put out of work.
Well, the move has put ministers at loggerheads with unions who say public services will suffer.
So is Labour's drive towards efficiency a page out of President Trump's playbook?
Elsewhere, the true impact of Britain's asylum crisis is exposed as councils express concern over outbreaks of violence on our streets.
And an inquiry is launched into Heathrow's shutdown following that major power outage and the fire. But could it all have been avoided?
Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall overhauls the welfare system. As we know, we've sent our reporter Anna Riley to Leeds to find out how the cuts could affect you.
Pope Francis is set to be discharged from hospital today after battling with double pneumonia for 5 weeks.
Is misogyny on the rise? Over 60% of Gen Zers believe there's been an increase in hatred towards women since President Trump took power.
Good morning. It's all eyes on Shanghai this morning as Lewis Hamilton bids for glory at the Chinese Grand Prix. And he's had some choice words for his critics. In tennis, meanwhile, Jack Draper suffers disappointment as he crashes out of the Miami Open.
Another day of wet weather is on the cards for many of us, but there is some sunshine and dry weather in store next week. Join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Just wondered, do you hold on to your old tat?
I've got a house full of it.
Have you?
Yeah, what do you mean by old tat?
Well, this one, look at an old computer, this one.
I've got a pile of old computers because I don't know what to do with them.
Well, get them on eBay or something, because a working Apple I, which is from 1976, it was one of the first ever computers with a motherboard. We used to have everything now. Everybody's got a motherboard now, but it was one of the first ones with a motherboard. It sold in Boston for £290,000.
What?
And it'll do nothing, will it?
No, it won't do anything.
There'll be more memory on a calculator than this thing's got. 290 grand for an Apple I.
Oh, I shall go up in the attic and see what I've got, because I'm always scared to throw away a computer because, you know, there may be sensitive information on it. So they just in a pile.
Yeah.
I don't think I've got anything that old.
You never know, do you?
No, absolutely not.
Oh.
But would that have been? Would that have been one of those ones with? Yeah, with a
the sort of ones you had at school in the early 80s.
Yeah.
BBC ones, remember?
Oh, the BBC computers.
You wait about 3/4 of an hour to get a picture of the UK flag or something.
Yeah.
I mean, why had a BBC computer? You know, I mean, that's just
do you remember?
Age.
They were. And there were all sorts of names that everybody. They began with A. There was something like Accio computers or.
You had we were talking about the C5 last week, the Sinclair C5.
Yeah.
Sinclair was a Spectrum, wasn't it? Do you remember that?
That's right. Yes, you're right.
We used to do these horse racing games.
You had Commodore 64.
Commodore. No, I do remember
that was
Commodore 64.
That was quite advanced, though, by comparison.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, because you could actually program it. You had apricots. We had an apricot.
Right. I knew one. There was another. And there's an apple and an apricot, and there were various other
Blackberries.
things.
The first gaming console was called Intellivision, I remember, and that was a kind of a low-budget alternative to Atari.
Oh, Atari.
That's the name I was trying to remember, Ataris. So those are... Well, I wonder if anyone's got... I can't understand why it would sell for that much.
It's a little bit of history.
I suppose it's just... It's like an antique.
It is an antique.
Put it somewhere and just admire it.
Yeah.
How silly is that? There you go.
That's clever, isn't it? Anyway, there you go.
Have you got a drawer of old phones as well?
Oh, no, I always sell mine.
Oh.
When I get rid of a phone, I always sell it.
The little tiny Nokias, and I've got all of those.
Have you?
Yeah. Because I've always been too scared to throw them away and think, what do you do with them?
But you can't do anything now because they won't connect to the networks now.
No,
they won't do anything.
No. It was a very complicated business when we first got little things that connected. And I thought, this will never catch on.
I'll never get the hang of this one.
My dad bought a Nissan Micra.
Actually, talking about old-fashioned things, I was just wondering, because Rachel Reeves is going to announce 600 million to fund extra work placements and apprenticeships.
Right, good.
Which I think is a great idea,
Yep.
particularly in the building industry.
Good.
She's saying, become a brickie if you want to build a career. A lot of kids are leaving school not knowing what they want to do and end up not doing anything. And she's beginning to suggest that every school should be encouraging those sort of school leavers to take up an apprenticeship or learn maybe in school how to be a bricklayer, how to be an electrician, or, you know, one of those proper standard trades, and I think that's a brilliant idea.
Well, you learn a trade and you've got a career for life.
Yeah.
And we've looked down on it over the past 20 years, so you've got to go on to further education. Why?
No, absolutely.
Be a brickie, be a chippy, be a sparky.
Because there's an absolute shortage of them. So, you know, and if we're going to build our way out of this crisis one day, need to build more houses, then we're going to need people who can build houses.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't you meet people at university who just were there because they were there almost? They would have been better off sort of doing a trade.
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
If you have been, or if you were a brickie or something like that, did it provide you that skill? Did it provide you with, you know, a life career? Love to hear from you.
My cousin's a chippy.
Chippy? A chippy, a brickie,
and a sparky.
Yeah.
But he's never been out of work.
Plasterers. Oh.
Plasterers, what a skilled job that is.
You've seen a plasterer at work, the way they do ceilings. It's incredible.
Anyway, right, we're out of time, Aidan. He'll chat on all morning.
Can't stop him.
Because we need to talk about the Chancellor, actually, because she's ordering the civil service to cut more than £2 billion a year from its budget.
That's part of a government spending review in which departments will be told to reduce admin costs by 15%.
But guess what? There's been a backlash by union bosses who say tens of thousands of jobs could go as a result.
So, Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, are they following the sort of efficiency drive that we're seeing in the United States? Elon Musk, for instance, in charge of that. Or is it just a new way of sort of trying to introduce us all into austerity?
Let's get the thoughts of political commentator Jennifer Powers. Jennifer, morning to you.
Good morning.
I mean, it's so conservative, the way this is all going. Smaller state, cutting back on public spending. This could be very hard for the Conservatives to criticise, isn't it?
Well, I think they should welcome it. I think all parties should welcome it. And if the government actually follows through and implements these cuts, I think it will be for the country's benefit. As someone who worked in Whitehall at the centre of government, there were far too many civil servants. There were far too few in certain bottlenecks.
Yeah.
The ones, the top economists, the top modelers, the legislative unit. They didn't have enough people that actually knew how to draft legislation correctly, but they had tens of thousands of paper pushers or, you know, keyboard warriors doing very important jobs potentially, and sometimes not. So I think these are actually quite conservative proposals, and they're quite conservative estimates. So you asked, are we following America? Well, I think to follow Doge, Rachel Reeves would need to outline much more daring changes to the civil service.
Yeah, but it's just inviting trouble from the unions, and you can tell that would happen. On the other hand, what she's talking about seems to be so eminently sensible, doesn't it? Because basically, it's about cutting out people, pen pushers, as you put it, people who are probably a waste of money, and maybe concentrating on the things that we really do need, which are like old-fashioned tradespeople.
Yes, I mean, the government is very quick to say that they're protecting frontline services and this will be administrative jobs. They pick out HR and communications. However, if you're going to cut the size of the civil service by potentially 10%, you have to look beyond those departments. So it will be interesting to see, and I think, Anne, you raise a really good point, which is it doesn't really work if you just have a number target, whether it's number of jobs or percentage of the budget. You need to look at what the state does and what it doesn't do. And so I really think the government would be wise to think about upstream. What can it stop the government doing so that it no longer requires great swathes of armies of civil servants to push the paper around for those bits. So look forward to more detail. Obviously, this all comes ahead of Thursday with the spring statement by the Chancellor, where she is really boxed in, given the higher borrowing figures, sluggish growth, and the fiscal rules. So she is having to pull rabbits out of the hat.
Meanwhile, in all of this, they're facing, one of the constant problems, which isn't going anywhere, is the asylum issue. And they say, the deportation figures are actually pretty high. And for some reason, that doesn't seem to cut through. But one thing which is being highlighted at the minute, which has always been there, is the fact that it's causing damaging community cohesion in areas where there are a lot of people moving in, and there's real concerns about that now. That's got to be addressed. It's about time that was properly focused on, isn't it?
Well, the Express has quite a fascinating story from the front lines, various councils around the country sharing the impact on community cohesion and also on really practical things like availability of housing. The government tries to spread out across a local authority so that there's a limit on how many asylum seekers there can be in any borough. However, if you've got a hotel in a particular ward, then the residents of that hotel are going to make a significant impact on that local community.
Yeah, and if that hotel is absolutely full to the brim with asylum seekers or migrants awaiting approval or whatever, it changes the whole nature of that particular neighbourhood, doesn't it? Of course it does.
It does, and there are hot spots for this around the country, around those asylum hotels, as you say. Also near some of our airports, where quite a few of these hotels have been, block booked by the government for asylum seekers, and the people that are living there are having a very different experience than they might have done 5 or 10 or 20 years ago. I would say, though, however, this isn't much of a surprise, because whilst we see asylum seeker accommodation in hotels rising to 38,000, which is 2,500 up on 6 months ago, it's not surprising because we've had 28,000 people come to the UK illegally via small boats since the election. So if we have more people coming in illegally, we're going to have more people in these asylum hotels. So until we can get a grip on our borders, we're going to see this impact.
I mean, we need a total change in tactics, don't we? I mean, the election slogans, smash the gangs and all that sort of thing, is clearly not... I mean, they're not only not working, nothing really seems to have happened on that front.
Well, I think the government is finding it's harder in practice, right? It's much easier to be the opposition and to just say, do this. It was interesting to see them floating ideas this past week around third country.
Yes, in the Baltics, wasn't it? But they are detention centres for failed asylum seekers who've already been processed, I think I'm right in saying. It's not actually anything to do with smashing the gangs.
Well, if we could get processing centres for applicants that were in third countries.
What, like Rwanda?
Well, I think Labour may for their own reasons choose a different country, but yes, something like that, which a lot of other countries are looking at as well, and we know Australia already does.
That would be remarkable if they introduced that, considering
Well, apparently there's a detention centre that's empty at the moment in Albania, which Italy had paid for, much as we paid for Rwanda.
We paid for Rwanda.
Italy had already paid for this detention centre in Albania, which they then also, for some reason, never made it work. So it's sitting there, and apparently we're looking at that as well.
Well, these are all options. I think what's interesting is you could ask, why are these even necessary? And part of the answer is when illegal immigrants make their way into the country, we don't always know where they've come from, because they destroy their documents. Yeah. So we have two problems. One, we have a lot of countries around the world that refuse to take illegal immigrants. We don't have deportation agreements with those countries. And that's one thing where we need a much more joined-up approach across government, with trade and diplomacy working hand in glove with the Home Office. But then secondly, how do we change the incentives so that these people are not destroying their documents? Because that's one of the main reasons that they can stay. We don't know where to send them back to.
Yeah. OK, Jennifer, for now, thanks very much indeed. We'll see you a little bit later on.
Yeah. Right, it's 6:14. Now, passengers have been told that cancellations and delays are expected to last for the rest of today and into next week. And that is, of course, after the Heathrow airport shutdown.
Meanwhile, it's emerged its boss, the CEO, went to bed while the fire at the substation raged on, leaving hundreds of thousands of people in the midst of flight chaos.
An urgent internal review into the closure of Heathrow has now been launched, alongside a government investigation.
Let's get the latest with consumer expert Helen Dewdney. Helen, good morning to you. I mean, the more details we get about this, the harder it is to believe.
It is, isn't it? I mean, you know, the CEO going to bed, that's just that's quite shocking, really, isn't it? I don't care about hundreds of thousands of people's plans being ruined.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been more fitting if he'd sort of, if he was that sleepy, if he'd gone to sleep on the floor of one of the terminals or something. We also hear that 2 of the terminals had not had their electricity interrupted. They could have been working, but somebody took the decision to close the whole airport. I mean, so many questions need to be answered for everybody's sake, because it simply mustn't happen again.
Absolutely. It will be interesting to see what comes out of that investigation, but how long that investigation takes will also be interesting to see. I'm sure it will go on and on.
Well, it will, and it's a case of having any confidence that lessons will be learned in all of this. I mean, is this one of those situations where actually we need to see a few heads roll?
I don't know. I think it's difficult to say whether we need to see a heads roll without seeing the results of the investigation. It does seem to have been quite a mess, particularly if 2 terminals could have been opened. I think that would be quite a shocker for people who could have gone from those terminals.
Well, of course, that's what's being reported. We don't yet know whether that is absolutely accurate.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, isn't it? We know so little at the moment. And, I mean, you're a consumer expert. As consumers, surely we deserve better than this.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, consumers are telling me that, as always with these kinds of things, it's the lack of communication that's so annoying. So when they know that they can't fly, but they're not getting that information about what they can do, that's so common now, and yet we're still not getting those airlines improving their customer service. So it is important for consumers to know their rights.
What sort of impact is this likely to have? I mean, because it's obviously going to cost the airlines tens of millions of pounds and Heathrow Airport a lot of money. What impact will that have on the economy?
Well, it'll be interesting to see, because they will obviously have to refund a lot of consumers. They will have to, the airlines will have to refund the consumers. They will have to reroute. They have to pay for other ways of people getting home, because that's their right. One assumes that they will be claiming from the airport. They may be claiming on their insurance. So it will be a whole mixture of you know, where money is coming from.
And I just think it adds to the woes. I mean, it's awful enough travelling anyway, and making all your arrangements and knowing that you're going to be hanging around an airport and all the rest of it. It's the worst part of a holiday, actually, isn't it, often? But then having to come home now, if you get home, and then having to sort out all the paperwork about the complaints and about trying to get your expenses paid by somebody somewhere, having to learn your rights, as you've just said, it just adds to the woes of the average traveller, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And because the best thing that you can do is, if you are stranded somewhere, is to make sure that you're getting your refreshments, your accommodation overnight if you're being delayed. Because although it's an extraordinary circumstance and you're not entitled to that extra compensation, you are still entitled to be looked after if you're delayed 2 hours on short haul, 3 hours on medium and 4 on long. But also making sure that if you want to go a different route, you want to get the next available flight, and the next one is actually with a different airline, that you can do that. It's best to try and get approval from your airline, because that will make it easier to claim back. But it is obviously time consuming and frustrating, particularly if you're, well, I'm going to say if you're trying to get home, but also if you're trying to go on holiday.
OK. Helen, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
Yeah, I hate that sort of stuff anyway. I mean, it just adds to the stress, doesn't it, of travel?
Yeah, it does. It's really hard. It's the last thing you need, but sometimes you just got to crack on with it. What option have you got?
One of our viewers, Gerrimand,
Yeah.
It says, my father learned his trade. We were talking about Rachel Reeves trying to encourage school leavers who haven't got anything else to do to actually take up a trade and to get an apprenticeship if you possibly can. And more apprenticeships are becoming available. German says, my father learned his trade while serving in the RAF. He used to repair and paint Spitfires. Oh. When he finished his national service, he used his skills to become a panel beater and sprayer. And those are the sort of jobs that are still needed.
Absolutely. And that is one of our headlines this morning at 6:19, that the Chancellor has revealed plans to train up to 60,000 bricklayers, electricians, engineers and carpenters over the next 4 years. It's going to cost 600 million quid. It would help fill the 35,000 job vacancies in the construction industry and kickstart the economy.
The prisoner who escaped from a police van while on his way to court has been arrested after a 4-day manhunt. Jamie Cooper was spotted running along the side of the motorway near Preston after it was believed he faked a medical emergency so that he could escape. Lancashire Police thanked everyone who shared the appeal.
And Britain's longest-running pop band, The Searchers, are set to split up after almost 70 years. It was formed in Liverpool by Mike Pender and John McNally in 1957 and shot to fame as contemporaries of the Beatles. Their final show will be at Glastonbury in June. Vaguely rings a bell.
I remember The Searchers. We had The Searchers and The Seekers, if you remember. The Searchers, I cannot remember one of their songs now.
No.
But
they've been
together a long time.
Can you be in a pop band at when you've been going for 70 years? Because apparently Lady Gaga, just happened to read in the papers this morning, is hitting back because people have said she's far too old to be a pop star because she's 38.
Oh, for heaven's sake. But the Rolling Stones are still
but they're rock stars. That's different, isn't it?
See. Yeah. Yes.
But pop?
Age hasn't got anything to do with pop. Wow. If you're still a band and you can still do it. And they're obviously in Glastonbury this year, so they must still have it, whatever it is.
It is.
If you can remember one of their songs, though.
The Searchers.
Get in touch, The Searchers. Yeah.
Right, in the meantime, what you think on that? Let's get a check on the weather with Ellie.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Another changeable day is on the cards for many of us. Rain gradually starting to ease, but there will still be some heavy showers around. The rain that we've seen across the northern half of the UK is gradually going to ease as we head towards the afternoon. Still rather cloudy for much of northern England, eastern parts of Scotland, but where we do see some sunshine, particularly across the southeast of England, we are likely to see some quite heavy showers bubbling up through the afternoon. There could be some thunder and hail mixed in here too, perhaps some localised flooding in places. And for northwest Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, there will be some sunshine too. Another mild day, temperatures well above average in the south, 17, 18, perhaps 19 degrees. And even in the north, those temperatures a little above average for the time of year. Into Sunday evening, we see those showers persisting for a time across the southeast, so continuing to see some heavy downpours in places and really quite cloudy across much of England and Wales through Sunday evening. Across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, though, plenty of clear skies to end the day, but generally a little bit cloudier across the northeast of Scotland, so some outbreaks of rain for Shetland and Orkney for a time. As we go through the rest of Sunday evening, any of those showers we see across the very far south gradually start to push their way offshore, so turning a little drier for much of England and Wales into the start of Monday morning, perhaps the odd outbreak of rain across the very far southeast. But further north, a much drier picture and plenty of clear skies on offer for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland, and likely to turn quite chilly here, perhaps a touch of frost in places, but generally staying that little bit milder under that cloud further south and further east, temperatures in the high single figures. So a bright but chilly start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, a cloudier start across England and Wales, but that cloud gradually starting to fizzle out as we go through the afternoon. So some sunshine developing here, maybe one or two isolated showers, but it should be staying dry for most places. That sunshine turning hazy across the northwest, though, as we see this weather front arriving, so some heavy downpours across northwest Scotland, and temperatures will be down a touch on what we saw over the weekend, but still a little above average for the time of year.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This spring, the Chancellor steps up to the dispatch box to make a statement. But what kind of statement will it be?
Taxes, spending, growth, benefits, cost of living. What's changing? And more importantly, how does it affect you?
Does she have the headroom to make headway?
Will it ease the squeeze or tighten the grip?
Will businesses boom or struggle to survive?
And does the spring statement have real impact, or is it just political posturing?
GB News brings you the analysis that matters. Just what it means for your money, your home, your future.
The Spring Statement 2025, Wednesday on GB News.
"6:27, good morning to you. Now, as we observe Lent, we're bringing you daily reflections from ministers around the United Kingdom. Here's today's.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hi, I'm Mark, and I'm the Vicar of St Oswald's and St Chad's in Middlesbrough. We're a society of addiction, and I don't just mean the obvious ones, the cigarettes and drugs and alcohol. We're a society of people addicted to power, to status, to money, to having more, to holidays, to the news, to complaining about things, to misery and to anger, and to endlessly doom scrolling on our phones. Of course, people want to kick a lot of these addictions. Without something else to replace the hole these addictions leave, they often end up coming back to them, even more possessed by them than when they were to start with. There's a story in the Bible where Jesus casts out a demon. It's exciting for the crowd watching, but Jesus has a warning for them. If that person doesn't have the demon replaced with something greater, then that person could end up worse off than when they began. So what's stronger than a demon? We could ask that question about anything that possesses us. What's more lasting than money? More joy-giving than drunkenness? What's more satisfying than endlessly staring at our phones? I don't always get this right, and sometimes I struggle to believe it myself. But over time, my experience is that the only thing that can compete with any of these things is the person of Jesus himself. He satisfies and fills greater than anything else that can exist or that does exist.
just on things religious, I've noticed
yes.
a little bit there in the paper you were reading. A rare first Bible in Chinese, must be the first Bible printed in Chinese, was donated to an Oxfam store in Chelmsford. I don't know who actually noticed, but they must have thought, this is interesting, because it's just sold for £44,000 in an auction.
Wow. See, it's what makes going to charity shops interesting.
Absolutely it is.
You never know.
Have you
what
ever
you're
found
looking at.
anything fascinating in a charity shop? And if it's in a charity shop and you think that's worth a fortune,
would you tell them?
Would you tell them?
I don't know. But would you know it's worth a fortune if you're not an expert?
No.
We bought a little crystal decanter from a charity shop a couple of weeks ago. And it's lovely, and it's really heavy and solid. It was like about £9. No, it's probably not worth anything.
Is it glass?
Yeah, it's crystal.
And it's really, so it's heavy.
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
But it's probably not worth a lot of money, but it's worth more than £9. That's great. It's in perfect nick.
Yeah. The ladies, it's not always ladies, but you know what I mean. The ladies who run charity shops, they must develop a keen eye.
Oh, they must.
Don't you think, oh, this is a bit of all right, and do something with it. I don't know. But, yeah, take it. Obviously, in that case, maybe they took it to an auction house.
Well, great news for Oxfam. There's a lot of money in their coffers, isn't it?
Maybe that's what I should do with all my old computers.
Take them to Oxfam. But then you've got to give them away for nothing.
Yeah. Oh, and the Searchers hits. So many people, thank you very much, have been in touch. Needles and Pins, which was a cover, but it was a massive hit for the Searchers. And then what was the other one?
Sweets for My Sweet.
Sweets for My Sweet. Sugar for My Honey. Don't Throw Your Love Away.
I don't know that one.
Don't throw your love away. No, 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 no.
Well, you've got the voice of an angel,
haven't I just? And When You Walk in the Room, that was a lovely one as well. Of course, they were part of the Mersey Beat sort of movement. And a lot of, I mean, that's what made the Beatles so unusual, in that they wrote their own songs, whereas a lot of the Searchers songs were covers of other people.
Yeah.
But still memorable.
There you go. Yes, we all know them. Might not know the name, but we know the songs. Right, now, from forest fires to flooding, hurricanes, the World Meteorological Organization say changes in the environment are driving more extreme weather events.
Well, it does seem that there are more extreme weather events. Let's get more and find out why from Jim Dale, who joins us now to tell us about World Meteorological Day. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Anne. Good morning, Stephen.
Bit of a grey sky behind you there, is it?
Yeah, but we'll take everything that comes with the weather. That's what we have to do as meteorologists. So hence the reason of being out here and not in the office. I think we experience what we see and what we feel, so why not?
What is World Meteorological Day?
Well, it's a bit like World Happy Day, isn't it? That was, or Happiness Day. That was a couple of days ago. I think these things get made up from time to time to I don't know, make us feel better, make us feel something that you know, rather than just Valentine's or Christmas Day, that we throw in all of these little ones, if you like. But look, the weather in itself, Meteorological Day, look, it's the biggest influencer on our lives by nothing else. Everything that we do, most things that we do, particularly outside, of course, depending on the weather, what we grow, what we eat, what we wear, what we feel on a holiday, our mental attitude. You know, I wrote this book about 3.5 years ago, and this contains everything that the weather and the climate actually does for us. And believe it or not, as I said, it is the biggest influencer, and sometimes it's sort of taken for granted, and it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. So hence the reason for me being in a job, because I go across all fields of professionalism out there, whether it be sports, whether it be insurance, whether it be legal, weather, as in reports and going to court and swearing on the, not so much the Bible for me, but other things. You know, it really takes us right across the spectrum, and that's why I guess we've got a World Meteorological Day.
Do you think that there are more extreme weather events now, or is it just that we have 24-hour news and social media and everything? We're just sort of, we see more of it on our screens.
I think it's a bit of both, Anne, to be honest with you. Yes, we do. Social media has actually opened the window to what goes on in one respect. But whether we see more, or it's more likely, in fact, it is the case that we're seeing more intense weather. Climate change is definitely there. It's happening. Even in our sanguine grey skies behind me, etc., that we see. Very often in the UK, we don't get involved. But even now, the Southern Hemisphere has been through records this year. 2024 was the hottest year on record. Last March in the UK was the warmest on record. You probably won't remember it. And 2022, we saw the heights there. So, look, these disasters, whether we're talking about LA fires, whether we're talking about floods in Dubai or floods in Houston, they're becoming more and more progressive as time goes on. Why? Because the fossil fuels are being still at record levels, being put into the atmosphere, which is putting a lid. It's called the greenhouse effect. We all did that at school. It's very simple stuff for people to understand. But if we do heat the world and it's got nowhere to go, then, like a pan of milk on the stove, it will continue until it boils over. And I think what we're seeing now is that pan boiling over, and we're seeing these incidents. And mark my words, it will continue this year as well through 2025. We're just entering our spring. It will get worse with time. We look at incidents across the world. We go back to Heathrow, by the way, and I should mention this. Heathrow was nothing to do with net zero, as claimed by Richard Tice, wrongly putting that forward, very early days, taking some very poor journalism by the Telegraph, and putting it out as a fact. Totally wrong to do that.
Well, we will be finding out. We will be finding out.
To come on this programme and apologise for calling it net zero, because it certainly was not. But there you go. That's what I'm saying.
OK. Look, good to see you, Jim. As always, thank you very much indeed. World Weather Day, we should call it, if anything.
But if there's one thing we're good at, us Brits, is talking about the weather.
This is very true. This is very true. Now, if you're fed up with the weather over here, perhaps you want to go away. And what better way to do it than grabbing £17,777 in tax-free cash?
As well as a watch for each wrist and a lovely designer handbag.
Yes, we'll just throw it all in. If you want to win all of that, here's how you can enter.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could be a spring winner, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag and not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, well, still to come, we'll be going through all the latest sport with Aidan McGee, so don't go away.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Interesting research here, because on the one hand it looks as though awareness of ADHD and the symptoms is rising because of TikTok and influencers promoting the symptoms of TikTok, but there's also research that suggests that usage of TikTok itself can cause ADHD. So how do we kind of untangle this?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? It's a double whammy, really, because I think, as you say, on the one hand, you've got this almost like social contagion of increased awareness of symptoms that either are ADHD or, as you have pinpointed, mimic ADHD. And we know that increased and excessive screen time, not just TikTok actually, but all social media time, mimics ADHD. Anyone that has a child and has witnessed their own child spending, obsessive time scrolling through social media or gaming and seeing what that does to a child, particularly, I think, young children's attention.
Yeah, my best friend, she was telling me, oh, yeah, I've known her since she was 4 years old. And she was chatting to me the other day and she goes, you know what? I've got ADHD. That's, well, if you've got it, I've got it. It's ridiculous. There are so many people saying they've got it. It's getting to epidemic proportions. Isn't it a bit ridiculous, all these people claim they've got it? What is it? What is it?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I completely agree. I think it is absolutely ridiculous. And I agree. I'm being tongue-in-cheek about TikTok. I do. My personal view is that TikTok is uniquely awful. I think it is absolutely mindless. Does anyone ever feel good after scrolling on TikTok? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there will be some people. So, I do accept these platforms are different for different people. I do think, though, we have to really ask, why is there this apparent explosion of ADHD and this rush for everyone to diagnose themselves?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, time for the sport. 6:40, morning, Aidan.
Good morning to you both.
Should we have a look at Lewis Hamilton? He's having a go at his critics.
He is a little bit, yeah. I mean, probably people like me who said that people who lack understanding, he said, of what it means to take up a new team. Now, yes, it's extremely difficult, and I suppose he feels a little bit empowered now because he came home so well on that on the sprint race on Friday in China, which and then he just a few hours later he qualified in 5th, which for today's Grand Prix, which is underway from 7 o'clock in Shanghai. Now, look, he's quite pointed. He said that people chose to be negative at any opportunity, even with the smallest things. They'll just be negative about it. That's just a difficult time we are living in. So he's opening it up and saying that that's the climate he's having to deal with.
Oh, come on, Lewis.
Oh, don't we feel sorry for him?
I know, yeah, I know. It's difficult for him, isn't it? But he called them yapping. He said they were yapping.
Yeah, no, they should... I suppose it just the blinkered world they live in, isn't it?
Yeah.
But honestly, the man is clearly talented at what he does, driving a car very fast. I don't get it really. But what he should do is just have some respect for the people, for his fans, and not call them yapping when they just call him out.
Well, I think he was talking about more journalists, but also he's saying that some of the people criticising were people he respected. You know, people he had some time for, who should know better because they've been through what he's been through. But nonetheless, I mean, I think he should wait. I mean, the sprint race was important, but he should wait until he wins a Grand Prix before he starts mouthing off, in my opinion, just because it's been 4 years since he did anything. Now, he's in a better car. Now he's got a chance to... Well, he is in a better car.
He's in a Ferrari, darling.
I know, but I like the Mercedes Petronas.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, he's got an opportunity this morning. He qualified in 5th. Oscar Piastri is top. Verstappen's in 4th. And we've got two Brits we don't really talk about as much as we should because of all the paraphernalia around Lewis Hamilton. I mean, look, George Russell's in 2.
Oh, for Mercedes.
Yes, absolutely. And Lando Norris as well in 3rd. So it should be a decent rattle around the track. And we're hoping there won't be any rattling in his car either.
Well, let's hope not.
Let's hope it turns in well, shall we?
Shall we have a look at Jack Draper?
Yes, disappointing, but look, he won in Indian Wells last Sunday. I just think when these tournaments crash on to the back of each other, it's sometimes difficult to sort of regain focus. That is the game, that's what you have to do. And maybe, if I was being a bit cynical, he would benefit from the time off this week because the schedule is thick and fast before they know it.
I was going to say, surely they can choose. I know they've got to keep up the ranking, I suppose, haven't they? But surely they can occasionally choose to leave one out.
They can. I mean, there's big money involved for these tournaments as well. We think all the Grand Slams are the ones that provide all the dough, and they do, but there are tournaments just slightly below, like Indian Wells.
This is the bread and butter.
It is, but they can still get a few quid for it, even if they get to, say, the quarter-final. But nonetheless, the clay court season is almost upon us. I mean, it's 2 months away from the French Open. We're going to have a lot of dirt play before then. What I mean by that is on the dirt of the clay. We're going to see players, having to... It's a tough surface as well, particularly for Draper. British players haven't really done well on clay in recent years. So we'll see where it goes for him. But, straight sets in so early on he probably isn't happy there, I would have thought.
OK. Aidan, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you a little bit later on. Before we have a look at the papers, in just a moment, let's show you the forecast for the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After a wet and windy couple of weeks for Spain and Portugal, there's some dry weather on offer and plenty of sunshine across the eastern Mediterranean too. Still some showers affecting the far north of Spain and Portugal and some heavy downpours across parts of Italy and Croatia over the next couple of days. But across the eastern parts of the Mediterranean, parts of Turkey and Cyprus, plenty of sunshine on offer. The best of the sunshine through the rest of the week, though, definitely across the Canary Islands, and highs here likely to reach around 21 or 22.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here with an exclusive opportunity just for you, our incredible GB News viewers. We're giving you the opportunity to win a VIP studio tour right here at GB News HQ. Plus, you'll also get to meet yours truly. It's easy to enter, just head to gbnews.com/community competition and follow the easy steps. Don't miss out, enter now, and I'll see you soon at GB News. Full T's and C's apply.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new Royal Newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
6:48, looking at the papers this morning. Mail on Sunday has Metropolitan Police craven surrender to Black Lives Matter.
Telegraph reporting on Chancellor Rachel Reeves's planned cuts to the civil service.
Sunday Times has giant fraud in student loans.
And the Express leads with the impact Britain's asylum crisis is having on UK communities.
Let's talk to the Deputy Editor of Deputy Political Editor of Mail on Sunday, Anna Mikolova, and the broadcaster Alex Dyke. Good morning to you both. Anna, let's start with the Mail on Sunday, should we? And this Metropolitan Police story.
Absolutely. So this has come out of bombshell court documents where the lawyers for the Met Police have revealed that during the Black Lives Matter protest in June 2020, that they actually took the operational decision to stand down armed firearms officers from patrolling Downing Street, specifically because they were afraid that the protesters might seize the guns and start using them.
So they pulled armed officers away?
Yes.
Because they were worried that the mob might get hold of their guns, which seems an extraordinary thing. You said these are court documents. What court action was it that the documents are related to?
So during that protest, one of the police officers who was on duty and on horseback ended up being knocked from her horse. It was quite, I don't know if you remember it, but it was quite a striking visual on the day. And she is now suing the Met because she says that these decisions to take away firearms officers and use horseback officers more actually put her in danger and caused her injuries. So, of course, the Met is denying that part, but what we have focused on is their justifications for standing down these firearms officers. And needless to say, I was speaking to quite a few politicians last night about this, asking their reaction, and people who are quite familiar with how the security arrangements work around Parliament and around Downing Street were absolutely flabbergasted.
It's extraordinary, Alex, isn't it, if this is true?
Well, if it's 100% true, it is, but these are violent protests. And if they're that violent, how can we have officers that aren't armed? It's crazy to think that you might go somewhere. We better not go in case you take our gun away. How could it get to the situation where you're letting a violent protester get your weapon?
Yeah.
It seems unbelievable.
I mean, Anna, it's your story, isn't it? I mean, you must have been shocked when you first read this.
I was. I mean, it was actually my colleague Sam Greenhill who found the court documents. I was there getting the reaction, but absolutely. And, you know, as I said, Robert Jenrick, for example, last night says this is a classic example of two-tier policing, because if you think about it, when Keith Palmer, the police officer, was killed outside Parliament, the police shot him repeatedly. So it can't really be an issue of they don't want to, if needed and if the circumstances require it, use their guns.
If you've got armed police and the mob is in any danger of actually seizing your gun, in other countries, they'd just be shot, wouldn't they? Well, that's what an armed policeman's
And the
for.
suggestion is, and the assumption from this, from reading these court documents, is that the management, and you know, I think it's important to be clear that these aren't the firearms officers making those decisions. In fact, some of the people I spoke to yesterday made the clear point that, you know, those officers are very brave. They are. Normally they would be reinforcing if it was up to them. It's the management of the police. And there are serious questions about how that decision was taken and why, and whether or not it was the culture around Black Lives Matter and, of course, the police involvement in the original cause of that, the George Floyd killing, which was appalling, absolutely shocked the world. And then the wonder of... did that affect our police's decision?
Yeah, well, yeah, possibly. Well, look, the Metropolitan Police issued a statement saying this is misleading. While we cannot comment on the specifics of security matters, Downing Street remained fully protected by armed officers throughout. It's completely wrong to suggest the security of the site was compromised. As a matter of routine in policing any protest, we would seek to avoid firearms officers coming into contact with protesters.
Yeah, doesn't completely specifically answer your points, though, does it, Anna?
Alex, let's have a look at the Sunday Times, should we? And Rachel Reeves is taking the axe to the civil service.
Yes, now this is part of the spring statement, which it's funny, isn't it? Spring statement makes it sound like it's going to be a happy announcement, the spring statement, but obviously it's not going to be for civil servants. The unions obviously aren't happy about this. Thousands of jobs could go, and yeah, they're being told to cut $2 billion from the budget as part of the government's spending review. Rachel Reeves is expected to unveil these cuts in the next week at the statement. But what I would say, we all criticise civil servants, but civil servants have families too.
Yeah, well, yes, but what I mean, the unfortunate side of this is that people are losing their jobs.
Yeah.
So it looks like, and that is unfortunate. Of course it is. But we can't give people jobs and fund them just for the sake of it, can we?
No, we can't. And if these are unnecessary pen pushers, I totally get it. But this could be 10% of the civil service. But maybe they need to have a cull.
Well, that's. I mean, that's.
I think they definitely do need to have a cut. Of course, there's sympathy with people in all cases when people lose their jobs, but the civil service has ballooned and ballooned and ballooned year on year. It is now at a record size. It is not more productive or efficient, and on top of that, it's got a culture of people, sadly, being promoted for failure or kept on for failure. You know,
Well,
it's very hard to get sacked from the civil service currently.
Some things have to change. Anna, Alex, got to leave it there, but see you later.
Time for the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Another changeable day is on the cards for many of us. Rain gradually starting to ease, but there will still be some heavy showers around. The rain that we've seen across the northern half of the UK is gradually going to ease as we head towards the afternoon. Still rather cloudy for much of northern England, eastern parts of Scotland, but where we do see some sunshine, particularly across the southeast of England, we are likely to see some quite heavy showers bubbling up through the afternoon. There could be some thunder and hail mixed in here too, perhaps some localised flooding in places. And for northwest Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, there will be some sunshine too. Another mild day, temperatures well above average in the south, 17, 18, perhaps 19 degrees. And even in the north, those temperatures a little above average for the time of year. Into Sunday evening, we see those showers persisting for a time across the southeast, so continuing to see some heavy downpours in places and really quite cloudy across much of England and Wales through Sunday evening. Across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, though, plenty of clear skies to end the day, but generally a little bit cloudier across the northeast of Scotland, so some outbreaks of rain for Shetland and Orkney for a time. As we go through the rest of Sunday evening, any of those showers we see across the very far south gradually start to push their way offshore, so turning a little drier for much of England and Wales into the start of Monday morning, perhaps the odd outbreak of rain across the very far southeast. But further north, a much drier picture and plenty of clear skies on offer for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland, and likely to turn quite chilly here, perhaps a touch of frost in places, but generally staying that little bit milder under that cloud further south and further east, temperatures in the high single figures. So a bright but chilly start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, a cloudier start across England and Wales, but that cloud gradually starting to fizzle out as we go through the afternoon. So some sunshine developing here, maybe one or two isolated showers, but it should be staying dry for most places. That sunshine turning hazy across the northwest, though, as we see this weather front arriving, so some heavy downpours across northwest Scotland, and temperatures will be down a touch on what we saw over the weekend, but still a little above average for the time of year.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could be a spring winner, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag and not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Chancellor takes an axe to the civil service.
Rachel Reeves is set to slash more than £2 billion from government departments, and that could see tens of thousands of people out of work.
Well, the move putting ministers at loggerheads with the unions, who say public services will suffer.
So is Labour's drive towards efficiency sort of taking a page out of President Trump's playbook?
Elsewhere, the true impact of Britain's asylum crisis is exposed as councils express concern over outbreak of violence on our streets.
An inquiry is launched into Heathrow's shutdown, of course, following that fire. As flights resume, we're told, but could it all have been avoided?
Well, 2 days after Heathrow ground to a halt, flights are generally setting to resume business as usual for passengers, but behind the scenes, 2 investigations will be launched to find out what went wrong on Friday.
Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall overhauls the welfare system. We know it's coming, so we've sent our reporter Anna Riley to Leeds to find out how it could affect you.
Pope Francis is going to be discharged from hospital today after battling with double pneumonia for 5 weeks.
We're asking today, is misogyny on the rise? Apparently 60% of Gen Z believe there's an increase in hatred towards women since President Trump took power.
It's all eyes on Shanghai. Lewis Hamilton is 5th on the grid at the Chinese Grand Prix, which starts around about now. He's also had some choice words for his critics. Join me later.
Another day of wet weather is on the cards for many of us, but there is some sunshine and dry weather in store next week. Join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
The Sun on Sunday is brilliant today. It's a really good read today because it's full of loads of just little tidbits.
Yeah,
they've got running all through the paper these Lion Kings quotes from England managers back in the day. This one, I just love Terry Venables at Euro 96. If you can't stand the heating in the dressing room, get out of the kitchen. I mean, it's just
He was
brilliant.
great for a quote on TV.
Roy Hodgson in 2016 asked about England's failures. I don't really know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, well, it wasn't
brilliant.
as simple as that. He was brought into a press conference after England had lost. And I know Roy, and he said, well, you know, what am I doing here, given that, you know, it was actually a contractual obligation for him to be there, but he was just annoyed because they'd been humiliated by Iceland at the Euros at a key stage.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. OK. But it is, I mean, they're put on the spot, a lot of sportsmen, aren't they?
They are.
They say something which is brought up time and again.
Yes.
Sam Allardyce once said, I can count on the fingers of one hand 10 games where we've caused our...
Brilliant.
All this sort of stuff. Just brilliant.
I love it.
Sun's a really good read this morning for stuff like that. It's really entertaining. I love little tidbits like that. They're great, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Right, should we crack on?
Yeah, let's crack on with the politics, basically. Our top story being the Chancellor is going to order the civil service to cut more than £2 billion annually from the budget.
That's as part of a government spending review in which departments will be told to reduce their admin costs by about 15%.
But of course, it's already been met with backlash by union bosses who have been warning that tens of thousands of jobs are people who are going to lose their jobs, basically, and that's not a good thing for some.
So, is Rachel Reeves and Sir Keir Starmer following the efficiency drive taking place in America, or is it just rebranding austerity?
Well, let's put that very point to political commentator Jennifer Powers. Are they just trying to dress up austerity with Rachel Reeves saying, well, I've got to cut this enormous amount of money annually by making some people out of work, but on the other hand, I'm going to pour a lot of money into apprenticeships for youngsters?
Well, she's having to make some tough choices. She's really boxed herself into a corner with sluggish growth rates, increased borrowing and her fiscal rules. So she has to find £10 billion of spending cuts, and we saw the floated cuts to disability benefits last week. And now we hear in the Sunday papers, we read about these cuts to, as you say, admin costs. And this is really a pale imitation of what's happening in America. So we're not going to Doge levels of reform, asking for 10 and then 15% cuts to the overall spend on staff in the civil service. And it's worth remembering that the size of the civil service has increased by more than 100,000 just since the pandemic.
So, but in all of this, and it is, you know, you've got to bear in mind, we can't celebrate people losing their jobs on a personal level, but it's about the size of the state, isn't it? And it does seem remarkable that whether you like the government or not, Labour normally goes for big states, and they're cutting. I mean, they're cutting welfare budgets, cutting the civil service, increasing spend on defence. But it sounds like are they a Conservative government?
Well, it is causing huge problems for Labour Party management. The backbenches are livid about the cuts to disability benefit. And as you say, the unions are up in arms around job losses. But I'm afraid they're coming up against hard reality, which is we are in a wartime now. We have the threats of China and Russia and instability in the Middle East. They need to boost defence spending. And where are they going to go? She's promised not to raise taxes again until potentially the autumn, when we'll get more. So she has to look at cuts. And you know, they're trying to safeguard frontline services. They've ring-fenced the NHS and schools. So we're back to that old chestnut of administrative management costs, and that means staff numbers.
Well, they clearly believe that the jobs that she wants to cut are useless jobs, basically. I mean, clearly they believe that. Now, I mean, and they may well be right, but I was just wondering, doing a U-turn on increasing tax, would that be more or less popular than what she's doing now?
Well, I think she's really felt the heat from the backlash around the farmers' tax, around the schools' tax that she brought in, and the increasing tax burden, which is all-time high for most of us taxpayers here in the UK. So limited room for manoeuvre, at least in her eyes, on that score. And so the Cabinet Office is taking that bird's-eye view of Whitehall and saying, these numbers have gotten very high. I think the big question will be whether, to your point, they get rid of the unproductive or the very low productivity posts, or whether they go for those posts that are actually essential for running the state well. And time will tell.
Yeah, it's interesting because where they are spending money, they're spending money on defence. Well, I mean, that is generally good for the economy.
Especially at the moment.
There's this talk of getting apprenticeships up and running, a bit better people learning a trade, brickies, sparkies, chippies, which is going to cost £600 million. So that's a big investment. However, that means as well, it's like British jobs for British workers rather than bringing people in to do these jobs, which is happening a lot at the moment. So is this all stepping in the direction that actually the country as a whole wants to see?
Well, it feels as though the government is inching toward that. I still don't think these are radical changes, sufficiently radical changes to make the difference that most of the public want to see. I mean, we see in polls again and again that people want more secure borders, they want less immigration, they do want that investment in skills, they want that investment in our young people. And we need it because the amount of young people out of work, not in education or employment or training, as they say, is too high. And by failing to invest in our young people, we're really setting ourselves on quite a difficult course. So let's hope some of these things come in and do what they're supposed to.
It'll be interesting to see the way she phrases all this as well, won't it? What about the other... Yeah, exactly, the language that is used.
Yeah.
But it'll be very interesting to see what the reaction is from the other political parties as well.
Yes. Do I imagine that Conservatives and Reform would welcome this, perhaps say it doesn't go far enough?
It's the very sort of thing they would be campaigning on if there were a campaign.
Well, yes, and, one does wonder whether Morgan McSweeney is having, sway in number 10 in terms of trying to really capture that territory that both the Conservatives and the Reform would like to have, and stealing their thunder, really, by moving in this direction, especially with local elections coming up and wanting to protect his boss.
Yeah, no, politically it is very interesting. Jennifer, good to see you.
And you.
Thank you very much indeed. It's got you going on your say. Also, actually, Isabel's been in touch saying, why aren't you talking about the school cancelling Easter? Well, we have covered it on GB News, covered it last night, and it's on the website.
I've still got steam coming out of my ears.
Yeah, this is
just
to recap, though, it's a primary school in Hampshire that has cancelled its Easter service and bonnet parade out of respect for diversity, but it is going to still hold Refugee Week later in the year.
Yes, and it does hold other weeks that mark certain religions, but it just seems to be the Christian services or the Christian... one is an Easter bonnet parade, I think.
One of the ways we'll be celebrating inclusivity is by taking part in Refugee Week, which occurs in June. I mean, frankly, it's a disgrace. We are a Christian country. We should be celebrating Easter, and the idea that they're pulling that is crazy.
What's not diverse about having all the children come along and do an Easter bonnet parade, for heaven's sake? It's somebody trying to be very, very, I don't know, virtue signalling, or at least maybe they see it that way, but it isn't to me. It just is disgraceful, as you say.
We appreciate your understanding and support as we make this transition. Well, there hasn't been a lot of understanding and support by people in the area who seem very, very annoyed.
No, if I were the parents, I'd have my own Easter bonnet parade outside the school gates.
I'd be complaining about that. I would be, not about your Easter bonnet.
Oh, I see, yeah.
In cancelling the Easter service...
That is so wrong. What's next, Christmas?
Why are we embarrassed about the fact we are a Christian country?
Yeah, and so many people are already in our culture, are calling Christmas the holiday period, aren't they? Happy holidays.
Don't like it.
No, don't like it.
Anyway, if you have got views on that, gbviews@gbnews... No.
UK? Something like that.
gbnews.com/your say.
I'm
confused with the old email.
I know,
it's very confusing.
Absolutely. And now, well, have you got home yet if you were on an aeroplane or thinking you would catch an aeroplane? Or have you got where you're going yet? Passengers have been told that cancellations and delays should be expected to last at least for the rest of today, but also into next week, after, of course, the chaos at Heathrow.
Yeah, meanwhile, just adding to all of this, it's emerged that Heathrow's boss apparently went to bed while the fire at the substation raged on. He was very tired, leaving hundreds of thousands of people in the midst of flight chaos.
Not a good look, is it? Now, there's an urgent internal review going to go on into the closure of Heathrow, alongside a government investigation. I wonder how long all that will take.
We go to Heathrow. Tony Maguire is there for us this morning. I mean, certainly this news about the boss going to bed, Tony, beggars belief.
Yes, good morning. I mean, it's kind of an interesting one, you know. I wonder how all those passengers who are stuck or waylaid at a completely different airport or landing somewhere completely unknown feel about that. I mean, I can actually tell you as well that the Chief Executive, Thomas Wolby, said he was personally quite proud of the way that Heathrow handled the situation on Friday. He had said that because of the issue was created outside of the airport had to deal with the consequences, and therefore where they performed quite well. So again, I don't know how those passengers might feel about that were travelling in Friday. But nevertheless, you know, things here at Heathrow, generally, as far as passengers are concerned, are generally returning to normal. Of course, those delays are expected to continue for a few days. British Airways today saying that it expects to run a full schedule now from today, but passengers, you know, be prepared for anything to go sideways. And looking out at that skyline behind me, I'm sure the pilots and the people at Heathrow are glad that they're back to the usual troublesome woes of low-hanging fog in the morning to deal with, and not that escalating issue. Now, we've obviously know by this point that there's going to be 2 reviews or investigations into the fire on Friday. One is going to be being pushed by Ed Miliband with the help of Ofgem to try and get to the bottom of why this happened and why the problem was not solved soon enough. Another one, of course, with an internal investigation. Ruth Kelly, former Transport Secretary and Heathrow board member, is going to be leading up that investigation, and certainly her results are expected to be delivered in about 6 weeks or so. So it'll be interesting to hear what comes of them, because it's transpired over the last couple of days that Heathrow and Gatwick were both alerted to this problem being a possibility as much as 10 years ago. Now, 3 substations all feed into different parts of Heathrow Airport, and the one that went down, well, you know, we know the catastrophic challenges that represented, and the other 2 aren't so easily interchangeable. But certainly what was warned was that this was a single point of failure by Jacobs Consultancy. Now, they are a kind of business resilience company who make sure that when things go wrong that the business can still remain entirely operational. They foresaw this problem, and seemingly Heathrow did not take them up on it. So I'd be curious to see how they thought about that report 10 years on. But certainly, you know, both those investigations, both the internal one being conducted by Heathrow Airport and Ed Miliband, expected to shine some kind of light on this issue. But if you're a passenger setting off, you're basically being told, turn up at the airport unless you're told otherwise.
Thanks very much, Tony. I was a bit worried this morning when I saw Tony back earlier, a couple of hours ago. Wasn't I, Tony? I was worried that maybe you had been delayed, you know, you were on a plane somewhere and you'd ended up in London or something when you hadn't planned it. But apparently this was planned. It's very good to hear from you with Heathrow Airport there in the background. Thank you.
Thomas Walby, according to Heathrow Insiders, he's the CEO, was told to go to bed for safety reasons, because the big decision was not whether to shut the airport, but when to reopen it. Ensuring the person at the top was well rested to make clear decisions was paramount.
For heaven's sake.
I mean, if you can't, as the boss, actually cope with it. I mean, he shouldn't have been able to sleep. The adrenaline should have been...
wanted to go to bed, should he? He should not have wanted to. If you're the boss and you're having to take these huge decisions about shutting an entire international airport down, you shouldn't want... it's your job to be awake and to be grasping all the decisions that need to be made, even into the next day. Do you know, we had a message from one of our viewers yesterday who said that they had been going to fly somewhere for a funeral. So it was important they got there, and in the end they couldn't. And that's the sort of human side.
Yeah, it is.
And he should have thought of the human side of it as well.
I was just trying to
if people are suffering like that, suffering those terrible delays and being diverted all over the place, I cannot understand him wanting to go home to bed.
Yeah. Right. Let's have a look at some of the other key stories this morning at 7:17. As we've been saying already today, the Chancellor's revealed plans to train 60,000 bricklayers, electricians, engineers, carpenters and the like over the next 4 years. It's a £600 million move. It could fill 35,000 job vacancies currently available in the construction industry, and that could kickstart the economy.
The prisoner, who escaped from a police van whilst on his way to court, has been arrested after a 4-day manhunt. He's Jamie Cooper, and he was spotted running along the side of the motorway near Preston after it was believed he faked a medical emergency so that he could escape. Lancashire Police have thanked everyone who shared the appeal.
And Britain's longest-running pop band, no, not Take That, it's the Searchers. They're splitting up after 70 years. They were formed in Liverpool by Mike Pender and John McNally in 1957. Their final show will be at Glastonbury in June.
Yeah, I've had a look on their website, and they say, look, we won't be performing on the pyramid stage or even the other stage. Those platforms are reserved for artists of a somewhat higher standing than we can claim to be. We will be gracing what is called the acoustic stage. And no, it won't be an acoustic set, blah, blah, blah. And he goes on, he said, it's basically, the acoustic stage is basically like a circus big top, which might seem odd, but it's a really nice venue, he says.
Right. Oh, well, there you go.
Search is still going strong at the moment.
Yes, for another couple of months. Right, let's see what the weather's going to do for you.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Another changeable day is on the cards for many of us. Rain gradually starting to ease, but there will still be some heavy showers around. The rain that we've seen across the northern half of the UK is gradually going to ease as we head towards the afternoon. Still rather cloudy for much of northern England, eastern parts of Scotland, but where we do see some sunshine, particularly across the southeast of England, we are likely to see some quite heavy showers bubbling up through the afternoon. There could be some thunder and hail mixed in here too, perhaps some localised flooding in places. And for northwest Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, there will be some sunshine too. Another mild day, temperatures well above average in the south, 17, 18, perhaps 19 degrees. And even in the north, those temperatures a little above average for the time of year. Into Sunday evening, we see those showers persisting for a time across the southeast, so continuing to see some heavy downpours in places and really quite cloudy across much of England and Wales through Sunday evening. Across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, though, plenty of clear skies to end the day, but generally a little bit cloudier across the northeast of Scotland, so some outbreaks of rain for Shetland and Orkney for a time. As we go through the rest of Sunday evening, any of those showers we see across the very far south gradually start to push their way offshore, so turning a little drier for much of England and Wales into the start of Monday morning. Perhaps the odd outbreak of rain across the very far southeast, but further north, a much drier picture and plenty of clear skies on offer for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland. And likely to turn quite chilly here, perhaps a touch of frost in places, but generally staying that little bit milder under that cloud further south and further east, temperatures in the high single figures. So a bright but chilly start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, a cloudier start across England and Wales, but that cloud gradually starting to fizzle out as we go through the afternoon. So some sunshine developing here, maybe one or two isolated showers, but it should be staying dry for most places. That sunshine turning hazy across the northwest though as we see this weather front arriving, so some heavy downpours across northwest Scotland, and temperatures will be down a touch on what we saw over the weekend, but still a little above average for the time of year.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, still to come, the Pope should return to the Vatican today. That's the good news after more than 5 weeks in hospital. Tell you more in a minute.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Well, the end of February marks the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan, and the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer was quick to wish all Muslims Ramadan Mubarak.
Yes, he was, and the royal family also took to their Twitter feed, and they have millions of followers to mark the occasion, sending their best wishes to Muslims in the UK, Commonwealth and all around the world.
Which is all very nice, and quite right, of course, because there are many, many Muslims who are in the Commonwealth, which the royal family heads. However, what's been said for the Christians?
Zippo.
Because there's been a deafening silence from, well, the royal family, politicians, and many others as Christians mark the beginning of Lent, despite the fact the King is, of course, head of the Church of England.
Yes, it's all rather disappointing. Shall we get the reaction of the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II, Dr. Gavin Ashenden? Thank you very much indeed, Gavin, for coming on. Are Christians being forgotten in this country? I am taken aback by the fact that the royal family would take to their Twitter feed, which is watched by millions of people, to celebrate the holiday of Ramadan, but no mention of Lent, no mention of Shrove Tuesday, no mention of Ash Wednesday, nothing.
Yes, it's all very odd and it's not easy to understand because, as you quite rightly said, it's the right and courteous thing to do to wish Muslims well on what is for them a very important feast day. Why would we not want to be courteous and generous and supportive to people quite rightly pursuing their own religious devotions? But it's as well as two-tier policing, we appear to be having two-tier religion in this country because, as you say, there's complete silence for the Christians who still make up nearly 50% of the country.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
7:24, good morning to you. Now there's some positive news today because Pope Francis is going to be discharged from hospital later following his treatment for double pneumonia.
Yeah, the doctors have since told reporters that he was facing very critical episodes during his treatment, and they actually said that at stages he was in danger of losing his life, which I think is what everybody feared was going to happen.
Well, before returning to the Vatican, he is going to deliver a blessing from the window of his hospital room.
Let's get the very latest with Italian journalist Alina Trapattoni. Alina, a very good morning. And for once in 5 weeks, we have good news and everybody will be looking forward to seeing him.
Yes, absolutely. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Anne, from Italy. After 5 very, very challenging weeks and Pope Francis's hospitalization at the Gemelli Hospital in Rome, in downtown Rome, we finally have the news that everyone has been waiting for. His condition seems to have noticeably improved, and he appears to be set to return to the Vatican today, to his residence at the Vatican. Now, I say appears because obviously it's very touch and go. Doctors will be monitoring very closely, we're told from sources, what the situation is today. Because I'd like to tell you that this news just came out of the blue. Everyone had been monitoring very closely to find out when he would be released. And until yesterday afternoon, there was absolutely no indication of any date. And yesterday, during the course of the day, we were told, reporters on site and general media on site, I mean, the world's televisions are following, and the world's newspapers are all following this this hospitalization very closely. We were told that he would be seen for the first time. He would be appearing at the window of his apartments at the Gemelli Hospital for the first time in 5 weeks. So that was very good news in the morning yesterday. And then in the afternoon, doctors held a press conference and said that his situation deemed to be such that, you know, they could consider his discharge. They were announcing his discharge. Of course, this is a huge welcome relief to Catholics and, you know, well-wishers across the world, because not only is Pope Francis the leader of the Catholic religion, which is one of the biggest and the most followed in the world, but he's also the leader of a sovereign state. He's head of a sovereign state, of the Vatican state, which is, you know, the smallest in the world, but albeit it is a sovereign state on its own. So,
well, it is indeed.
Very good news.
What we need to bear in mind, though, and especially because of his age, that he's going to be in a frail state and a very tired state, one would imagine, for quite some time.
Yes, our doctors are saying 2 months of recovery and rehabilitation, and he has to take this very seriously. Obviously, the thing about Pope Francis is everyone knows how dedicated he is to his mission, and doctors say between the lines that he is a workaholic and he has to step back a bit. And also during his recovery, his 5 weeks of hospitalization, he actually very much followed work and day-to-day commitments. And even though, in some instances, doctors were very, very concerned because the prognosis they had on him was guarded. He had 2 very severe respiratory crises, and he had to have invasive procedures, including 2 bronchoscopies. So he was in a very complicated medical situation, but he never actually really stepped back from his commitment to his mission, from his dedicated mission that he has following Catholics around the world, and all the critical situations around the world. Just to give you one example, since the conflict broke out in the Middle East, he was in touch on a day-by-day basis with a parish out in Gaza. And when he was hospitalized, he carried on calling the parish priest daily. In some days when he was unable to breathe, when he had severe breathing complications and he couldn't speak, he actually texted the parish priest. So, the big concern here is he needs to rest, and that's what doctors are concerned about when he does go back to the Vatican later today, and he does need to rest.
Yeah, he sounds like one of those people who won't unless forced to. Maybe that's why they've kept him in hospital for 5 weeks. But in the end, he's fought back, hasn't he? And he's going back home to the Vatican. And not just Catholics, but I think people all over the world will be very glad to see that the worst didn't happen. And it makes you wonder about the power of prayer as well.
Well, it does indeed.
Throw that in.
Why not?
Just because, I don't know. You can't get rid of the Catholic inside you. Sometimes you think power of prayer, the world was praying, or at least a lot of the world was. Alina, thank you so much. Nice to have good news.
Isn't it just? Very positive. Let's just say, I hope he rests up now. Right, we've got the sport with Aidan in just a moment, so do not move.
This spring, the Chancellor steps up to the dispatch box to make a statement. But what kind of statement will it be?
Taxes, spending, growth, benefits, cost of living. What's changing? And more importantly, how does it affect you?
Does she have the headroom to make headway?
Will it ease the squeeze or tighten the grip? Will businesses boom or struggle to survive?
And does the spring statement have real impact, or is it just political posturing?
GB News brings you the analysis that matters. Just what it means for your money, your home, your future.
The Spring Statement 2025, Wednesday on GB News.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
How about our giveaway now? Time's running out, so grab it while you can. That's a prize of £17,777, tax-free, and 2 watches and a designer handbag. Here's how to take part.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could be a spring winner, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag and not 1, but 2 sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, Aidan's got the sport for us this morning. Where are we in the Grand Prix?
Well, it's up to the minutes updates right now, but Oscar Piastri leads ahead of Albon. Lando Norris is in 3rd. Lance Stroll in 5th. Lewis Hamilton down in 6th, but he's been moving down to 9th, and he was up at 4th. He got away from the grid quite quickly. He overtook Verstappen. George Russell is in 4th at the moment. 56 laps, of course. We're roughly a third of the way through. I think we're on about lap 19 at the moment. So plenty of way to go, plenty of movement to come as well. But we'll keep across that. And he had some words for his critics as well just prior to this, as we touched on in the last hour. He just said that some of the former pros who were commenting on his performance last week perhaps didn't understand the vagaries of how it is to adapting to a new car. Oh, and it's a fair point. It's a fair point. But was
he not had time to practice?
I know, it's not as simple as that. You're still going up against serial winners all the time. And I did think it was, when I said it was pie in the sky that a 40-year-old bloke could come in and take on serial winners 15 years younger than him, who, in the case of Max Verstappen, has been winning 4 in a row. 4 drivers' championships in a row, so it's not going to be easy. But I did expect him to finish better than 10th last week. Yeah. But of course, the sprint race, outstanding from him, and he's got a fighting chance now as well. If he's down in 5th, that's not too bad. That's where he started out, and as I say, a long way to go. Lots of tricky twists and turns to come, so we'll be right across that.
What football should we be looking at?
Well, Scotland face Greece in the Nations League playoff tonight. They're 1-0 up from the first leg, but I do think that Greece played well in that game. They had a slightly fairer wind. I think they would have got something out of it. And so the general feeling, even in Scotland at the moment, although Scotland have been celebrating this like you wouldn't believe, they're 1-0 up from the first leg. I don't think that tie is completely over just yet. Wales were in action yesterday against Kazakhstan. That was a World Cup qualifier, so different. Now, they won 3-1 against Kazakhstan, but that doesn't really tell the story, and because they should be dispatching Kazakhstan reasonably easily. They're down past 100 in the world rankings, and it was 3-1. Craig Bellamy quite calm about it. For them, qualifying for a World Cup would be absolutely outstanding, because they got there in Qatar in 2022, having not got there since 1958. So if they did 2 in a row, that's huge progress for Wales. And let's see. I mean, a win's a win, as they say in sport. And we look ahead to England as well on Monday, facing Latvia. And I just wonder whether Thomas Tuchel might make some changes for that. He was very critical of the wingers, Marcus Rashford and Phil Foden. And it might be a chance to juggle the pack.
Rashford can't afford to...
I agree.
I mean, he's in a reasonably tenuous position, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Clawing his way back up.
Look, the pressure was on because he was asked to start a game this time. Don't forget, when we talk about his progress at Aston Villa, his relative progress since he moved there at the end of January, it's all been appearances off the bench, where it's a different dynamic. You know, the pressure's off in a way when you're on the bench because you're brought on because things aren't going particularly well, and you know the expectation isn't quite there, especially as he went into that move to Villa on the back of no form whatsoever. But England is different. You know, any player who plays club football, when you're playing for England, even at a World Cup qualifier level, even though it's not a major tournament, the pressure really is on. And I think he'll be given another chance on Monday. But Tuchel is not. He doesn't care who you are. He will drop you if you're not performing well. It's as simple as that.
Well, that's his job, I suppose.
It is indeed. Yeah.
Meanwhile, at the Miami Open tennis.
Yeah, a bridge too far, it looks like, for Jack Draper. Second-round defeat for him after the euphoria of that win last Sunday at...
Who did he lose to?
It was Jakub Mensik, he's a teenager.
Oh.
So, but it was a second-round defeat. I do think it was biting off more than he could chew in some ways, and I wonder whether, you know, how committed he was to winning this tournament, having won last week, because they do have to give them sort of breaks. And the clay court season, which is really enduring as well, really saps a lot out of the players. That's almost upon us. We're 2 months away now from the French Open. British players have not historically performed well at the French Open, so he'll be looking to buck that trend. And then we all know what happens after the French Open. Within a matter of 2 weeks, it's
Wimbledon. We'll be talking Wimbledon.
So we get that. No one's ever addressed that situation in the calendar where you've got those 2 Grand Slams right on the back of each other.
Yeah, but it builds up the excitement.
It does build up excitement, but it's considering that there's 12 months in the year, and we've got the US Open happens in September. They're more spaced out, and the Australia in January. I suppose we just accept it as part of the endurance test. A bit like football, you know, you play lots of matches around Christmas.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's as simple as that. So we'll see how he fares. But I mean, you know, as I say, the main thing for him is he got off the mark with an ATP event last Sunday, and he's our big hope for the summer. I think it'll be a big year for him. He seems to have shaken off some of the illness problems that he's had on court, and he has indeed. And so maybe it's the year that he finally comes of age.
And Emma isn't playing this one, Emma Redford?
Yeah, she's playing. Well, yeah, she is, but she's playing tomorrow, I believe. Yeah, or maybe later today. I'll
Brace
check that
yourselves.
Yeah, well, you just hope that we've got some good British hopefuls in time.
Yeah, you do, absolutely. And she's flying the flag right now.
Good.
Right, good. Excellent. All right, Aidan, we should see you a little bit later on.
Yeah. Well, no,
I'm monitoring the Grand Prix.
Oh, are you?
Any movement?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, cars going round.
Yeah.
Didn't get it.
Albon seems to have dropped out.
Who?
What's happened?
Who?
Albon.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
He's pitted, apparently. So I'm told in my ear.
Well, look, I'll leave you two to talk.
Yeah, OK.
Formula One. That's what you must do.
He loves it.
Meanwhile, I'm sure you'd really like to get away to some winter sunshine.
Brussels in third.
Wouldn't you? So here are the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After a wet and windy couple of weeks for Spain and Portugal, there's some dry weather on offer and plenty of sunshine across the eastern Mediterranean too. Still some showers affecting the far north of Spain and Portugal, and some heavy downpours across parts of Italy and Croatia over the next couple of days. But across the eastern parts of Mediterranean, parts of Turkey and Cyprus, plenty of sunshine on offer. The best of the sunshine through the rest of the week, though, definitely across the Canary Islands, and highs here likely to reach around 21 or 22.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
SpaceX latest Starship exploded over the Caribbean Sea.
I was wondering where it'd gone.
Yeah, debris could be seen falling back to Earth moments after the Starship launched down from Boca Chica, Texas. The rocket, of course, was unmanned. This was the 8th test flight, and it was only meant to be in the air for an hour. But, importantly, the booster for this rocket was caught with those Mechazilla chopsticks in an impressive display, the third time that's happened.
Those Mechazilla chopsticks? This is Elon Musk's spaceship, isn't it?
Tell.
Starship, sorry.
Yeah.
Planetary scientist Andy Lound could tell us us more about this. Andy, so was this a disaster or is this just a little obstacle to success?
Yeah, good morning. Par for the course, really. This is what kind of good afternoon. Par for the course as these things go on. The whole point of the tests, he's going to do 25 tests this year alone. And the interesting thing about this is you actually see the staging of it, where you've got the first stage, the booster, and then the second section, which is the ginormous rocket, which actually lifts off. The first stage, they seem to have got that cinched now, how it works quite well, coming back and landing in the chopsticks, absolutely breathtaking. The second stage, the Starship, was actually the new version of it, which they're testing out completely. And unfortunately, the first testing, the last test failed, and that was due to, it looks like, some frequency issues, which caused a frequency to go too high, which caused damage to the piping, which led to a fuel leak and a fire, which led to destruction. They made a lot of modifications, which led to test 8. And unfortunately, though, it has failed again. So they need to have a look at exactly what the issues are which are causing these failures.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
7:44, time to go through the papers with Anna Mikalova and Alex Dyke. Good morning to you both. Anna, Sunday Times looking at fraud when it comes to student loans.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary story. They have conducted an investigation that reveals that students, basically sham students, are pretending to enrol in courses, then apply for a student loan, draw down the first payment, then drop out, and in some cases, actually, a year later, do the same thing again. And it's getting through. So they've looked at leaked documents from the Student Loans Company and the Department of Education, and even the Education Secretary has written in the paper saying this appears to be a major misuse of public money and potential fraud. I think all of this feeds into a story that has been going on for a while, which is there are quite a few degrees that are offered by so-called universities that are clearly catering to some sort of racket, whether it's just because those universities or colleges want to benefit from money coming from overseas, so they get overseas students who then maybe don't even turn up, or they do.
That's what I was wondering. I mean, how are these British students?
This sounds much more organised and people from abroad. So,
but you can get a student loan.
Yeah,
you can. Well, absolutely.
The British government.
Online.
Gosh, I didn't know that.
The example they give is it says that they fear it's organised recruitment of Romanian nationals, but the questions are why are these students actually qualifying? And it says that clearly the admissions process is not exactly rigorous in what certain people call they're Mickey Mouse degrees, aren't they? So they've got an example where people use the Duolingo app screenshot to prove that they spoke English, and that actually got them in. And that worked. So, and that works in the fraud, but there are also lots of cases of just bogus degrees, frankly, that are making money from usually students from abroad who want to come and say they went to British University or British College, and then they take out these student loans, and a lot of loans then don't get repaid. So it's taxpayer money that's going down the drain.
Yes, not good.
A lot of it too.
Yes, whereas people should be getting a trade. Alex.
Right, OK, so this is in the Telegraph today. School leavers should be getting a job on a building site rather than a life on benefits. Well, that's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely obvious. And this looks like a really good, positive story. Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, has said this. They can earn a decent wage, they can get a trade, of course they can. Chippies, plumbers, brickies are never out of work, but another 60,000, is there going to be jobs for them, or is this just going to be like all of our children, they've gone to university, they get fabulous degrees, and diplomas and all that, then there's no job for them at the end?
Well, apparently we are very short of these particular trades, aren't we?
Yes, we are. And we do need to build, but I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a great story, but I'm just thinking, I think this will hack off a lot of people already in the trade who are thinking, maybe I've got enough work, but another 60,000 people, it might make work a bit tight.
I don't know. I think there's always work for these sort of people. I mean, how long do you have to wait to get a plumber?
Yeah,
but plumbers are very specialised. I'm sorry, I wouldn't want a school leaver doing my plumbing.
No, but one who's been properly trained to do it.
Properly trained. But that's the key. I think the gap in this story is it's one thing getting them out, doing an apprenticeship, doing a summer, but it's actually very hard work and you have to have a good head for it.
Yeah, but doing your apprenticeship takes, a good couple of years, 2 or 3 years that you've properly got your trade. And then they might only be 19, but if they...
The Home Builders Federation, it says here, the Home Builders Federation has estimated an extra 20,000 bricklayers, 20,000 ground workers and 8,000 carpenters will be needed soon. Also required 3,500 more plasterers, 2,500 plumbers, 2,500 electricians, and so it goes on.
Yeah.
Apparently we are going to need them, particularly...
So that's over 60,000 then?
Yeah. We're going to need them, particularly as we need to be building more houses, don't we?
Oh, I think it's great. You get a trade under your belt and you've got that for life. You are set for life.
Yeah, also, it takes care of that problem that we keep talking about young boys who are disaffected and feel out of place in society. Something like this, even if it's before they then go on to do whatever they maybe want to do more.
But it's not just boys, is it? There's plenty of girls out there who are plumbers and
But the problem, like adolescence, all the current focus is on these boys who are going on the internet, the manosphere, etc.
They've got nothing to do.
Exactly. Give them something like this, get them into a community and a trade, and that would take care of that problem.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Anna, can we have a look at Heathrow in the Sunday Times and Thomas... I've forgotten his surname now.
Waldby.
Who... he's the boss. Fire broke out, Heathrow shuts down, he goes to bed.
He goes to bed.
For safety reasons.
Absolutely extraordinary. So he was working in the evening, then around... after midnight, shortly after midnight, they decided to split the command team into two. One team went home, and the big boss went home, and his deputy stayed in charge. And crucially, his deputy then made a decision to shut the airport, which has, of course, proven extremely controversial, and questions are being raised about why that did. But this man earns, I think it's 3.2 million a year.
But everybody needs their sleep, don't they? Whether you're a millionaire or whether you're not. And
yes, you do, but if your airport is burning, or at least the power station is burning...
There's always two sides to the coin. This was a fire in a substation a mile and a half away.
Yeah, but affecting his airport.
Yeah, but then you delegate, don't you? And I say, Stephen, look, can you take care of this? I'm going to go and get some shut-eye. Phone me if anything happens. And you didn't phone me, so it's your fault.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. With this, I think he should have stayed on site.
It's like the captain goes down with his ship.
Yeah.
Why would he admit to going to bed, though? That's the big
what
thing
I want
to know is... I would have lied through my teeth.
Presumably, during the night, some journalist asked the deputy, who was dealing with the press, said, where's your boss? And he must have said he's at home in bed.
I'd have denied it, wouldn't you?
Well, no point lying. I just... If you needed to snooze, I understand the fact you might have needed 40 winks. You know, you'll have a fancy chair in his office. Go and put your head down in your office for an hour, and then you can literally be nudged. But you don't want to be off-site.
You do not want to be off-site. How can you actually fall asleep as well, even if you've gone home?
But the fire was a mile and a half away from the airport.
Yeah, but people who were his customers were being directly affected, sent all over the world. Ones flying in from the States were turned around and sent back. I mean, the absolute chaos, and he didn't care enough to stay awake. I can't believe it.
No.
Well, I can see the other side.
Can you?
Well, one of our viewers wrote in and said, thank goodness Churchill didn't go to sleep during the war. He did. He used to regularly nap, but he was always,
cat nap.
on
He was
top
a cat
of
napper.
cat nap. That's right. Yeah.
Alex, let's cheer ourselves up with Bond, should we, in the Sunday Express, because he will be British.
Yeah, I smell a
rat.
A bit of a rat with this. Well, I tell you why. So the execs at Amazon and MGM have assured fans that the next James Bond is going to be British.
Yes.
I'm not so worried about that. I just want to know he's a man, and I think they're getting...
They've already said that.
Yeah.
They've already said
he's got to be a man.
But I think this is all to do with the disaster of Disney's new Snow White. That has bombed and had such bad press. I think that MGM and Amazon are worried. So, yes, it's going to be a man, and yes, he's going to be British. I mean, it is good news, but it's always been a man, and he's always been British.
Yeah, but you just worry about it getting wokeified, don't you?
Yeah, but I don't... After Snow White, maybe Hollywood have learnt their lesson.
I don't know whether they ever did. Stephanie Tecci was in yesterday saying, when you get over all of the preamble that everybody's been talking about and you actually go to it, it's a very good movie.
Yeah.
Really?
Just saying,
It's a good movie,
Yeah, but
apparently.
now most of us don't want to see it.
No, but that's the damage has been done,
damage.
hasn't it?
Yeah.
Would you be going to see it, Emma?
It's not really my cup of tea, I have to say.
No, I mean, it doesn't appeal to me. But so it's all to do with PR.
The original was beautiful. I don't know why can't they pay scriptwriters to come up with a new story?
Come up with new... Exactly.
They're doing Wuthering Heights, which is being released next year.
To be fair, I think that will be very good.
Yeah, but why? I just thought someone would come up and say something new would be nice. Anyway, we're out of time on that. We shall see you two a little bit later.
Right now, we'll have a look at the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Another changeable day is on the cards for many of us. Rain gradually starting to ease, but there will still be some heavy showers around. The rain that we've seen across the northern half of the UK is gradually going to ease as we head towards the afternoon. Still rather cloudy for much of northern England, eastern parts of Scotland, but where we do see some sunshine, particularly across the southeast of England, we are likely to see some quite heavy showers bubbling up through the afternoon. There could be some thunder and hail mixed in here too, perhaps some localised flooding in places. And for northwest Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, there will be some sunshine too. Another mild day, temperatures well above average in the south, 17, 18, perhaps 19 degrees. And even in the north, those temperatures a little above average for the time of year. Into Sunday evening, we see those showers persisting for a time across the southeast, so continuing to see some heavy downpours in places and really quite cloudy across much of England and Wales through Sunday evening. Across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, though, plenty of clear skies to end the day, but generally a little bit cloudier across the northeast of Scotland, so some outbreaks of rain for Shetland and Orkney for a time. As we go through the rest of Sunday evening, any of those showers we see across the very far south gradually start to push their way offshore, so turning a little drier for much of England and Wales into the start of Monday morning. Perhaps the odd outbreak of rain across the very far southeast, but further north, a much drier picture and plenty of clear skies on offer for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland. And likely to turn quite chilly here, perhaps a touch of frost in places, but generally staying that little bit milder under that cloud further south and further east, temperatures in the high single figures. So a bright but chilly start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, a cloudier start across England and Wales, but that cloud gradually starting to fizzle out as we go through the afternoon. So some sunshine developing here, maybe one or two isolated showers, but it should be staying dry for most places. That sunshine turning hazy across the northwest though as we see this weather front arriving, so some heavy downpours across northwest Scotland, and temperatures will be down a touch on what we saw over the weekend, but still a little above average for the time of year.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could have £17,777 in tax-free cash to play with this spring. Cash to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you not one, but two sought-after designer watches and the latest Mulberry handbag. How would winning that sound? For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new Royal Newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good morning. The Chancellor takes an axe to the civil service.
Rachel Reeves is set to slash more than £2 billion from government departments, and that could see tens of thousands of people put out of work.
Well, it's put ministers at loggerheads, with unions who say public services will suffer.
So is Labour's drive towards this sort of efficiency actually them taking a page out of President Trump's playbook?
There's 100,000 more civil servants since the pandemic. The government wants those numbers to come down. I'll bring you the details shortly.
Elsewhere, the true impact of Britain's asylum crisis is exposed as councils express concern over outbreaks of violence on our streets.
And an investigation has been launched into Heathrow's shutdown following that fire at an electricity substation. But everyone now is asking, could it all have been avoided?
Well, an internal review and a government investigation are both going to be underway, while the Friday's debacle has been labelled an absolute embarrassment. What happened on Friday and when will we know more? Find out later.
Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall overhauls the welfare system, so we've sent our reporter Anna Riley to Leeds to find out how this all could affect you.
Pope Francis is set to be discharged from hospital today after battling with double pneumonia for over 5 weeks.
Also today is misogyny actually on the rise. Apparently 60% of Gen Z believe there's been an increase in hatred towards women since Donald Trump took power.
It's all eyes firmly fixed on Shanghai, where Lewis Hamilton is fighting it out at the Chinese Grand Prix. We'll have updates later this hour. We'll also look ahead to England's World Cup qualifier with Latvia at Wembley tomorrow.
Another day of wet weather is on the cards for many of us, but there is some sunshine and dry weather in store next week. Join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
Just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ann Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
We're going a bit car mad this morning because we've got the F1 going on, which obviously is all about cars. You're looking.
They are cars.
You like cars? You've been looking at cars.
Well,
You've been talking about cars.
We have.
Yeah, I've just sold one car and now I'm...
Need another one.
I need another one. Yeah, I definitely need a car.
I'm just thinking of selling one.
I am at the moment carless. I've never been carless. Ever.
My dad always said to me, you've got to pass your tests as quickly as possible because the level of independence it will give you. I was years before I got round to doing it. When I did it, I found out exactly what he meant.
Yeah, no, I passed within about a month. I was desperate.
Yeah, I know. Two of my sons don't and two do drive. And the two don't live in London and they just absolutely argue they don't have the need for a car.
You hear that a lot from people in London. When I lived in London, I had a car.
Yeah,
still
me too,
needed a car.
You still need to be able to buzz off whenever you want to. It is independence, isn't it?
Well, not all parts of London are the same. In some of the outer boroughs, you do need a car. Actually, less so around here, but
Uber might have changed it a lot as well.
Maybe.
And don't you think when driverless cars come in that you can just call up with an app, that will change everything too?
It will change everything a lot, but I like having a car.
And then houses won't need garages. I mean, it's going to have a stunning effect when it does happen. Driverless cars. Because you could turn your garage into another room of the house or have the mother-in-law come and stay there.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. It's going to change our society.
It's not going to happen for a long time.
Yeah,
very long time.
And I think a lot of people will still want their own cars, won't they? You probably will. And
I will.
My garage is detached from the property, so hopefully... that's not a bad idea, putting the mother-in-law in.
Yes. Thankfully, my mother-in-law won't be. I can say what I like. See what we're watching this morning. She was out last night.
Oh.
There's a girls' night out.
Well, it doesn't mean she might not. She's probably watching from under the duvet.
No, she won't be watching. No. She'll be... She might have got up to take a paracetamol, but that'll be enough for you.
I did take a paracetamol.
Morning, ma'am.
Morning, if you are watching. You're going to be consigned to the garage in the future.
OK. Dear me, she's got me down in about 3 weeks. I won't put her in the garage then. Right, let's crack on with the Chancellor, should we? Because she's ordering the civil service to cut more than £2 billion annually from the budget.
And it's part of a government spending review in which departments will be told to reduce their admin costs by 15%.
Well, guess what? There's been a backlash from union bosses already. They say tens of thousands of jobs will be at risk. Well, that's sort of the point, isn't it?
Yes, but then they are people who need their jobs. If only when governments do this, they could actually provide a plan for saying... It was like the miners during the mining crisis. They closed the mines, but they never actually provided jobs in any other way for a whole swathe of people who were then completely out of work. So anyway, is Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer following the efficiency drive that's actually taking place in America? Or are they just effectively rebranding austerity?
Let's go to Harrogate, because that's where the Lib Dem Spring Conference is taking place. Our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, is there. Morning, Catherine. I mean, we have been told already in the last week that the spring budget is not bringing back austerity, but a lot of people may be looking at this and saying, well, it looks and sounds like austerity.
Yes, the government have absolutely said it's not austerity, but I think to many people it's going to feel like it because non-protected departments have been told to find savings of between 7 and 11%. The money that the government had when they came into office, they've sort of front-loaded the spending for the first couple of years, and it's going to be very, very, very tight after that. And now they're being asked to find these cuts. So the latest development today is that we understand that the civil service, it's ballooned by 100,000 since the pandemic. The government is saying that cuts need to be made. They want to save £2 billion a year, and they're saying that the civil service needs to cut administration costs by 15% over the next 5 years. Now, the government is saying that will come from things like HR, office management, and that frontline services will be spared. But the unions, of course, would take a different view. So Dave Penman, he's the General Secretary of the FDA, and he said that the idea of, the cuts of this scale can be delivered by cutting HR and comms teams is for the birds. Also goes on to say that ministers should be honest with the public and the civil servants about the impact that this will have on public services. So, of course, the government will say we need value for money. There's not a lot of money around. They need to spend it wisely. This will be very bad news for the people that are set to lose their jobs. But Rachel Reeves has an absolute mountain to climb, doesn't she? Because they say that they want growth. Growth forecasts have been halved. The borrowing figures are up more than was expected. They've got very little money. They've already raised taxes by 40 billion in that budget last year. So now we've got the spring statement that they're saying, this is not a budget. They're sort of playing that down. But short of raising taxes again, and we know how badly that went down last time, they feel that they've got no choice. So that's why they're looking at really quite severe spending cuts.
The other interesting thing, it has a slightly more positive side to it, is that Rachel Reeves is also presumably going to say in the spring statement, but she's done a big piece in the Telegraph today about how she is trying to address the fact that there are lots of young people leaving school who don't know where they're going to go, what they're going to do. And she's saying, go into the trades. And she's going to actually put some real money behind lots more apprenticeships and maybe even building technical colleges again, remember them? That can actually give people a trade. And that actually also feeds into the fact that we need to be building, don't we?
Yes, I think this is definitely positive news because we've had a system in which university has been sort of held aloft as the answer for all young people, which it clearly isn't. We've got tons of graduates going into university, coming out with huge debts, not being able to get graduate level jobs. And meanwhile, there's a real shortage of people that use their hands, that make houses, builders, electricians, plumbers. That's partly why so many of them, we've got in from overseas. We've got these big skills shortages. And the government have said that they're going to build 1.5 million new homes. That's going to need a lot of workers. So I think this is definitely positive news. Of course, this should probably have all been done a long, long time ago, but certainly I think many people will think it's a step in the right direction.
Meanwhile, as we say, you're at the Lib Dem conference. What are they likely to be talking about today? What are we expecting?
Yes, well, it's Sir Ed Davey, the Liberal Democrat leader's big speech later on this morning. Yesterday, he was with young carers. They were talking about corridor care. In his speech, I was at the question and answer with him yesterday. He came on to the tune of Bucks Fizz, Making Your Mind Up, because when we won the Eurovision Song Contest, it was held here the following year in Harrogate. I was very young. I came along and my mum and me saw Terry Wogan. It was very exciting. But Ed Davey, I think is going to have some quite punchy language towards the Conservatives. I heard a little bit of it yesterday. And also towards Donald Trump and Russia. This is one of the sort of points of difference with the Lib Dems. They have been calling out what they see as unacceptable behaviour by Donald Trump in a way that none of the other parties are doing. And also on Russia, they are saying that we should be using those seized Russian assets to help fund Ukraine to defend itself, something that the government says it's looking at, but quite, very legally difficult. So, the Lib Dems are generally focused on care, on social care, particularly, and the NHS, water too. But I think there is definitely a point of difference with their approach to foreign policy. Of course, easy for them to say, given that they're not the ones that actually have to deal directly with the US.
OK, Catherine, for now, thank you.
Looks lovely up there in Harrogate, doesn't it?
Always.
Always nice to go there. Right, OK, let's move on to Heathrow again, shall we? Because passengers have been told that cancellations and delays are expected to last for the rest of the day today, but also into next week. And that's after the absolute chaos at Heathrow a couple of days ago now.
Meanwhile, it's emerged, adding a bit of fuel to the fire, as it were, that the boss, the CEO, went to bed while the substation was on fire, and of course leaving hundreds of thousands of people in flight chaos, and he handed over control to his deputy.
Because he needed to sleep, or apparently it was for safety reasons. Duh. Anyway, there's an urgent internal review now into the closure of Heathrow, alongside a government investigation, so we should get to the bottom of things.
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Let's go to Heathrow and our reporter, Tony Maguire. It still seems at the minute, Tony, we've got more questions than answers.
Yeah, that sounds about right, isn't it? And I mean, could we imagine it any other way when it comes to the bureaucracy of a huge situation like this? You know, Thomas Waldby, he's already said this weekend that he actually feels quite proud of the way that Heathrow has handled the situation, given the fact that the fire happened outside the airport and therefore Heathrow was really just left to kind of deal with the consequences. So maybe not one for, you know, jumping at the opportunity to take responsibility here, or at least his part in it. But certainly, you know, as far as passengers are concerned, it's worth saying that Heathrow and British Airways are both saying they're fairly expecting things to return to as close to normal as to be expected today. Heathrow coming out in the last hour and saying they fully expect a full schedule of 1,300 flights to come in and depart today, fairly uninterrupted. But of course, behind the scenes, things are beginning to get a lot more complicated. Ed Miliband has ordered a government investigation with help of the Grid and Ofgem into the reasons and the response to that fire that happened at the Hayes substation on Friday. And of course, over at Heathrow, well, they're also ordering their own internal investigation into the way that Heathrow responded to the fire and that closure. Now, Ruth Kelly, former Transport Secretary and Heathrow board member, is going to be leading up that investigation, and we're expecting results or some kind of answer in the next 6 weeks, or after 6 weeks, really, should we say. Of course, Heathrow, that substation, is one of three that feeds into different parts of Heathrow, but these three substations, they're not able to replace one another without heavy work, and indeed just now that backup system is what is powering this part of Heathrow Airport, and that's going to continue to be the case until the other two substations can really be re-engineered in order to support the whole airport, because that temporary supply is not built to power the whole airport the way that it is currently doing now. Certainly a house of cards in itself. But you know, this kind of begs the question of why did this happen, and of course, you know, why did it take so long to really get things back up and running again? Now, Labour peer Toby Harris has actually called this a huge embarrassment, which has made Heathrow a laughingstock, certainly not made any better by the comments of their chief executive this weekend.
OK. Tony, thanks very much indeed.
Let's have a look at the other major stories coming in to the newsroom today. And the Chancellor has revealed plans to train up to 60,000 bricklayers, electricians, engineers, carpenters, you name it, in the trades over the next 4 years. The £600 million move would help to fill 35,000 job vacancies in the construction industry, and that'll help with kick-starting the economy and building houses.
A prisoner who escaped from a police van on his way to court has been arrested. He was on the run for 4 days. Jamie Cooper was spotted at one stage running alongside the motorway near Preston after it's believed he faked a medical emergency to escape. Lancashire Police has thanked everyone who shared the appeal.
And Britain's longest-serving pop band, The Searchers. Well, they're going to split up. Well, they're going to retire, really, after almost 70 years of gigging. The group was formed in Liverpool, of course, part of the sort of Merseyside beat, by Mike Pender and John McNally, if you remember, 1957. And they shot to fame as contemporaries of the Beatles, of course, in the 60s. Their final show is going to be at Glastonbury in June.
Just can't imagine many people of that era being at Glastonbury.
A lot of people of that era are getting in touch this morning, though, telling us what their songs were and everything. I don't know, there's a thirst for that sort of... It's nostalgia.
It is nostalgia.
Isn't it?
Nostalgia's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It's fun.
Glastonbury, I don't know, is the place, not normally the place for nostalgia, is it?
I'd want to helicopter in and helicopter out.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah, that's the only way I think I'd want to do it.
Yeah, because...
But our Stephanie, she goes and glamps it, doesn't she, in one of their tents?
She does.
Those posh tents.
Posh tents, but she's right posh as our Steph.
Right.
Anyway, if you're common as much like us, let's go check on the weather with Ellie.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Another changeable day is on the cards for many of us. Rain gradually starting to ease, but there will still be some heavy showers around. The rain that we've seen across the northern half of the UK is gradually going to ease as we head towards the afternoon. Still rather cloudy for much of northern England, eastern parts of Scotland, but where we do see some sunshine, particularly across the southeast of England, we are likely to see some quite heavy showers bubbling up through the afternoon. There could be some thunder and hail mixed in here too, perhaps some localised flooding in places. And for northwest Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, there will be some sunshine too. Another mild day, temperatures well above average in the south, 17, 18, perhaps 19 degrees. And even in the north, those temperatures a little above average for the time of year. Into Sunday evening, we see those showers persisting for a time across the southeast, so continuing to see some heavy downpours in places and really quite cloudy across much of England and Wales through Sunday evening. Across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, though, plenty of clear skies to end the day, but generally a little bit cloudier across the northeast of Scotland, so some outbreaks of rain for Shetland and Orkney for a time. As we go through the rest of Sunday evening, any of those showers we see across the very far south gradually start to push their way offshore, so turning a little drier for much of England and Wales into the start of Monday morning. Perhaps the odd outbreak of rain across the very far southeast, but further north, a much drier picture and plenty of clear skies on offer for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland. And likely to turn quite chilly here, perhaps a touch of frost in places, but generally staying that little bit milder under that cloud further south and further east, temperatures in the high single figures. So a bright but chilly start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, a cloudier start across England and Wales, but that cloud gradually starting to fizzle out as we go through the afternoon. So some sunshine developing here, maybe one or two isolated showers, but it should be staying dry for most places. That sunshine turning hazy across the northwest, though, as we see this weather front arriving, so some heavy downpours across northwest Scotland, and temperatures will be down a touch on what we saw over the weekend, but still a little above average for the time of year.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, what are we doing? Great British giveaway. That's what I'm doing.
Should we?
Yeah, time's running out. So get going on it, because you could win £17,777 in tax-free cash, 2 watches, and a designer handbag as well. Here's how to take part.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could be a spring winner, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag and not 1, but 2 sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
First of all, are we talking about the West and the East, or is this a Western phenomenon?
Wholly Western phenomena, which excludes China, where things are still in a healthy state.
What's happening in the West, then?
It's been going on for quite a while, and it started with the universities, and then affected the biennales conferences. Basically, it's this left drift, and the sense that as in Vogue, we should care about the downtrodden, the marginal groups, the global south. We should criticize what's going on, and there's a sense of illegitimacy with everything which now is developed in most of the real-world developments we are, for instance, doing, as being neoliberal architecture. And so the discourse is shifting away, ignoring that and saying this is fallen, this is commercial, this is compromised, and we have a discourse about another world caring and looking after those who have been discriminated against, and that pulls a discourse and critical debate away from what's going on, and therefore what's going on is bereft of critique, of exposure, of debate, and becomes a craft.
We are looking at, on the screen at the moment, at some of the great buildings that you have been involved in. So tell me about the background to these. I mean, you were one of the architects here. What was your education? What was your inspiration? What led you to create buildings that look like that?
So I was originally educated in Stuttgart, Germany. I came here as a student, went to the South Bank University in exchange program, and as a student joined Zaha Hadid, who was a rising star in the field. And at that time, there was really a thriving discourse in architecture, grappling with this new world.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
8:24, morning to you. Now, polling shows 6 in 10 young people think the words and actions of political leaders has led to an increase in misogyny on social media.
Interesting that they're blaming social media for that. It comes, of course, as everybody's talking about the Netflix show Adolescence, which highlights how toxic masculinity can develop in young men because of figures like Andrew Tate.
Police! What are you looking for? You're making a big mistake. He's only a kid.
Dad, I haven't done anything.
He's a good kid. Jamie, I want you to listen carefully.
What's going on?
I'm going to start off with asking you.
Do you know a girl called Katie Leonard?
Oh dear, I don't think I can bring myself to watch it.
No, I can't. Well, I know people who watched it and said it's very, very
Apparently
good.
It is brilliant, yeah.
But I won't be watching it.
But it does highlight things I suppose we should be talking about. So today we are asking, is social media inherently misogynistic?
Let's talk to journalist Julie Cook and the author of Digitox, Mark Ellis. Good to see you both this morning. Julie, what do you think? Do we need to point the finger in some direction or other?
I think social media is inherently misogynistic. I think people are misogynistic, and I think blaming social media in this way is kind of the easy way out. I think social media has been used for good as well. I mean, if you look back to the Me Too movement back in 2017, it was thanks to social media that it gained so much traction and so much momentum. So I think blaming social media for men's and boys' attitudes towards women is kind of the easy way out. Social media can be used for good as well.
Yes, but I mean, the argument there is, yes, the Me Too movement, because people saw it, people absorbed it, people jumped on the bandwagon for good reason, but it works the other way in reverse, doesn't it? If people are seeing misogynistic comments and behaviour online, it's going to pull people in, isn't it?
Well, yes, but I also think that there is more to it than just boys are looking at social media, seeing terrible things and enacting on it. I think the wider issue is that young boys in particular need strong male role models, not just fathers, but also in wider society. So, for example, I have a 16-year-old boy, and like yourself and Anne, I won't be watching adolescence because it's just, I just can't. I find it too deeply disturbing, and perhaps that's wrong with me. But my son's 16, and his biggest hero, apart from his dad, is his sensei at karate. So I think having male role models outside of the home who give you strong, positive masculinity is what's needed.
Yeah, well, yes. Mark, what do you think of that?
Well, I agree with the need for a strong masculine role model, without any shadow of a doubt. The challenge we have here is society's changed, and misogyny, for right or for wrong, is a business, and businesses are promoted online. People like Andrew Tate make $7.5 million a month out of misogynist websites, and that content is pushed. There was a study from UCL just late last year that they started to set up blank TikTok accounts, if you like, and then they tracked the misogynistic content coming in, and it increased fourfold for young men in the first 4 weeks of that account being set up, because the algorithms are designed to promote content that gets clicks, and the most controversial content gets clicks, and misogynistic businesses get clicks, and so on and so forth. So some of this responsibility definitely lies with social media companies.
But how then do we clear that up, Mark?
So, I mean, a lot of this comes down to parental education. I mean, we're all in common, right? The stress of watching that program, I've looked at the highlights, is overwhelming. The key thing for parents is to get involved. I do agree that smartphone bans and control is something that parents should be looking into more as an educational aspect. The challenge we have is the over wokeism that is prevalent in society at the moment is causing young men to look for clarity in how they're meant to be, act, and think. I 100% agree that strong male role models are critical. And look at Gareth Southgate this week. What a fantastic speech he did, but he's not as famous as Andrew Tate, sadly. So there's a lot of parental responsibility in here. You have to take responsibility for your own children and educating yourself.
I'm really shocked to hear you say, but of course it's true, that misogyny is a business. It's a thriving business.
It is, and it's frightening. You also have to remember that on the social media platforms, they are male-dominated. The engineering and development work is male-dominated. The AI programmers are male-dominated. This is not to say males are misogynistic. It is to say, however, that if you take something like Twitter or X, it's 64% male population. So the business algorithms are set up to serve that need. It's a frightening world out there.
Well, I mean, Julie, we can't just look at all that and say, well, that's by the by, we just need a strong role model, can we? I mean, this can't be ignored, can it?
No, and, you know, they're really frightening figures and statistics, some of which I hadn't heard. So that is actually definitely food for thought, particularly for me as a mother of a boy. Yeah, it is frightening. It's like most male-heavy industries, so for example tech and all that, it's going to have a knock-on effect on the kind of things we see and hear and click on, of course. Social media itself and algorithms is a tricky thing that needs to be, I don't know how you sort it out, I'm not a tech person. For example, my social media is all cats and holidays I can't afford because that's what I look for. But if you are a person, a young boy who clicks on things and goes down that rabbit hole, it's hard to then get back from that. And I think that's what government needs to be looking at. How can we stop these algorithms leading our kids down that path? And agree, smartphone bans, no phones in schools for one. Luckily, my children's school bans phones in school, so they don't have it all day. And I take mine off my son when he gets in, so he can revise without it next to him. So it really is, parents have to play a part in in being aware. And although that's awful, because we almost don't want to know how awful it is, but we have to face it.
Yeah, that's surely the main lesson to be learned just from this discussion, is that, frankly, what we need is better parenting, because that's the only thing that is going to counteract all these, algorithms that are just feeding young men, particularly, the wrong stuff.
And we do have to realise that it's the parents that buy the phones. It's the parents that have the content. You have a parental responsibility to educate your child to cross the road. It is challenging. My kids, I have 4 children, 25 through to 16. My kids know more about the social media space than I do. We have open discussions about it, but it is my responsibility to learn more about it so I can have informed discussions with the kids. At the same time, I'm still paying the bills. So that phone is effectively mine and not theirs.
Yeah,
Try telling them that.
Well, no, but it's a very good point. I think people need to get a bit more hardline on it. Look, really good to talk to you both. Thank you very much indeed. It's a fascinating
and slightly depressing subject.
Well, it is. But see, talking to in this report and talking to the Gen Z generation, 61% said they feel misogynistic language on social media has grown because of statements or actions by political leaders, which is a concern. Yeah. A fifth of Gen Z women have left certain platforms after experiencing online misogynistic behaviour. And it's this... And a lot of people say you shouldn't talk about toxic masculinity. It's not about being masculine is toxic. It's just that element of it which does seem to be fueled. And I suppose you only have to click on one controversial link.
That's right, and then you are fed it from there on. It's like cookies that follow you, and your shopping habits and things like that. And that's the problem. But the only way to counteract that is to be grown up enough to switch it off, to get rid of it, or to be a grown-up parent and actually start parenting.
Yeah, but I can see how young boys are fed it and they just believe it. People do believe what they see and hear on social media. Anyway, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Still to come, Aidan will be back with the sport.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here with an exclusive opportunity just for you, our incredible GB News viewers. We're giving you the opportunity to win a VIP studio tour right here at GB News HQ. Plus, you'll also get to meet yours truly. It's easy to enter. Just head to gbnews.com/community competition and follow the easy steps. Don't miss out. Enter now, and I'll see you soon at GB News. Full T's and C's apply.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day.
bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
8:37, very nearly. Aidan's here with sport.
We're just crossing the line in the Chinese Grand Prix.
Oh, right.
Just crossing the line. We're just finishing lap 56. Oscar Piastri has finished in first place with McLaren. So McLaren 1-2 actually because Britain's Lando Norris has finished second. George Russell, another Brit for Mercedes, is third. Verstappen fourth. Leclerc is fifth. Hamilton in sixth. Now, I would still say that's an improvement for Hamilton. He started on fifth. Yes, he's dropped down to sixth, so I suppose you could nominally it's a minor regression. But last week, don't forget, he was 10th, and he was moaning about the car. He's had a good weekend because he won the sprint, so he's taken some points there. Finishing sixth now is not a bad record for him. Not a bad result, I would suggest.
Can I ask a silly question that I should know the answer to? But, I mean, Ferrari make cars, and proper cars, you know.
They do.
And so do the Mercedes, for instance. What does McLaren make?
They make cars as well.
Do they make, proper ordinary consumer cars?
I mean, you've got to have a lot of money spent.
You can see, if you go to Knightsbridge at about 3 o'clock on a Saturday, you might see a few of them knocking around there outside Harrods.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you do occasionally see them on the road. You've seen them, haven't you?
And what do they call? Are they called McLaren?
Yeah, McLaren, yeah. I mean, they'll have a model make and they'll have probably about, in that range, they'll probably have 5 or 6 different cars. But
it won't be on your list for buying a new car.
I don't think they do a hybrid.
I don't drive in the right circles, clearly.
I don't think they do a hybrid either.
No.
But no, they'll do plenty of models within that range.
Really?
But yeah, it's. I mean, the price probably starts at about £250,000. I would have thought.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a family saloon. That's what I'm saying.
No, I wouldn't look, can you? But you'd like the look of them.
Would I?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, they are. They're very distinguished. Yeah, but look, a good weekend for Hamilton. I would suggest, as I say, he's gone up 4 places compared to last week. And he's won the sprint as well, so I think that's...
All right, well, good on him. England v Latvia in the football.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Thomas Tuchel was, he was critical of Southgate's reign a little bit, we would say, before the match on Friday. Then he was critical slightly of the wingers, Rashford and Foden. I would argue that he kind of created that problem for himself, unless he wanted to call them both up just to prove that they're not quite doing it for England right now, and his point has been borne out. Maybe it's a bit of politics from somebody who, to be honest, is quite a political kind of bloke. He's very measured, as you observed yesterday.
Maybe he's saying it for a reason to sort of...
Yeah, I mean, there are so many players in that position that can be tried as well, but not many of them are in fantastic form. But nonetheless, they face Latvia tomorrow at Wembley. They should get the job done. I'm not expecting any problems, particularly at home. Albania really did offer a problem on Friday in that they just defended for their lives. That's all they had. And there was a low block, like a bank of 4 and a bank of 5 to really keep England out. But nonetheless, it's qualifying now is almost such a side order, if you like, because there's so many teams involved in it. It's not that difficult to qualify for the World Cup. It's diluting the competition at this stage of proceedings. And if he looks at an 18-month contract, Thomas Tuchel, well, the first part of it should be relatively straightforward because Gareth Southgate always found it easy to qualify. They scored lots of goals. The real problem, or the real challenge, is going to be at the tournament, at the World Cup, where they're going to face different challenges, because they're going to have to cope with the weather. And you ask anyone who played for the Republic of Ireland at USA '94 when they played at midday in Orlando against Mexico, and the heat was absolutely searing and completely debilitated their players. There were thermometers on the side of the pitch, and this was 31 years ago. So England are going to have to contend with that. Lots of people think they missed their chance probably last summer when it was a little bit more climate friendly, and even in Qatar, where the stadiums were air conditioned. So lots of battles ahead.
I suppose it's just the I was going to say greed. It's because this is all about money at the end of the day.
Well,
they accept gigs, they accept championships at more and more hot places.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because it's staggering that it's taken it'll be 34 years, I think it is, before the World Cup goes back to America. FIFA have been desperate to get back there since 1994, but they've had to share it around the world, and there have been some controversial appointments or awards bookings in that in that period since. But they've been desperate to get back there because they made so much money. I think they made something like 50 million quid back in. It doesn't sound a lot now, but in 1994, given Football wasn't big in the States. It's still not that big now, but that was a colossal amount of money for back then, and I think it's probably up there in terms of notwithstanding some of the receipts from some of the recent tournaments. Anyway,
it's the very thing that Novak Djokovic has been complaining about in tennis, isn't it? Is that now they are expected to play in climates, frankly, that just don't suit the sport, and at times of day that don't.
Well, I know, but then
he moans about a lot of things.
His complaint was about tournaments in the Middle East. I mean, I don't think tournaments in the Middle East are a new thing. I mean, I remember players playing it. I remember tournaments happening in Dubai, for example, as long ago as 25 years ago. I remember a journalist colleague of mine said that in the days when tennis players didn't carry a huge entourage with him, he said he bumped into Steffi Graf, who hadn't seen anyone for a while, and she threw her arms around him because she was grateful to see someone, a member of the press that she actually recognised.
Yeah.
But I don't think those tournaments in that part of the world are not that rare, and also not that new, and they get a fair bit of bumps for it as well.
Well, that's true. But as I said, it tends to be all about the money.
Of course it is. It was ever thus.
Twas ever thus indeed. Thanks very much indeed. We'll be looking through the newspapers in just a moment.
I was just configuring you a McLaren.
Oh, I'll tell you, somebody's been in touch saying Rowan Atkinson owns a McLaren.
Does he? The interesting thing is, I've configured this 720S, or whatever it is, for you. It hasn't given me a price, which worries me.
You shouldn't have to ask, you see. If you're interested in that sort of car, you shouldn't have to ask.
Is it nippy around the supermarket car park side?
It'd be very... Yeah, I've just set it all up in a lovely cherry red for you.
Very nice, thank you very much.
He's committed you to a finance deal as well.
Yes, it'll last the next 100 years, it'll have to, I'm afraid.
It's a beautiful car, but it is going to cost you.
But I tell you what, think of Mr Bean driving it. Doesn't quite go, does it?
No, not really.
No. Very odd. Anyway, there you go.
Nice to see you both this weekend.
And you. Right, let's have a look at the European hotspots.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
After a wet and windy couple of weeks for Spain and Portugal, there's some dry weather on offer and plenty of sunshine across the eastern Mediterranean too. Still some showers affecting the far north of Spain and Portugal, and some heavy downpours across parts of Italy and Croatia over the next couple of days. But across the eastern parts of the Mediterranean, parts of Turkey and Cyprus, plenty of sunshine on offer. The best of the sunshine through the rest of the week, though, definitely across the Canary Islands, and highs here likely to reach around 21 or 22.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Headliners on GB News 11 PM every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 PM and 5 AM as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Because we've got this Snow White premiere. What's going on with it? I've been hearing about this Snow White film for about 2 years, and it doesn't seem to be good news in the headlines.
No. I mean, it's quite unusual for a kids' film to get so much controversy, but it has been sort of dogged by sort of bad headlines and bad press for quite a long time. And then in the sort of immediate run-up to its release, it looks as though they've sort of scaled back a lot of the promotion to sort of avoid more controversy. But that in itself is creating headlines. I mean,
we're seeing some of the trailer now for anyone watching it on TV. We're seeing some of that. I must say, when I watched the trailer, I wasn't particularly impressed by it.
Well, I mean, some of the Disney live actions have been brilliant and some of them have been less good. I mean, I sort of think any press is good press. I mean, more people are aware that the film's coming out now than would have been if we hadn't had all this bad press. And I suspect that, I mean, people who are going to go are people taking their kids. And the kids aren't bothered about what one of the actresses has said or whether the dwarves are real or CGI. Like, I think it'll probably do very well. I think it depends whether it's any good, really. I think that's the most important thing. I think the negative sort of press and controversy around it probably isn't going to have a massive factor in the takings.
Yeah. What does scaled back mean in terms of the premiere? What does that actually, how will that look?
So a lot of films will have a big premiere in Leicester Square. That's a sort of like, I guess in Europe, the sort of HQ for premieres, and you get a lot of, the world will jet in to cover that. Whereas this has had a sort of quite a small scale premiere in northern Spain in a castle. So it kind of looked quite grand, but it was on a very small scale. So, and there haven't been as many interviews and things like that with the cast, I think, because of everything that's happening. So it has been scaled back a bit. But I mean, like, we're talking about it now, so it's working, whatever they are doing.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This spring, the Chancellor steps up to the dispatch box to make a statement. But what kind of statement will it be?
Taxes, spending, growth, benefits, cost of living. What's changing? And more importantly, how does it affect you?
Does she have the headroom to make headway?
Will it ease the squeeze or tighten the grip?
Will businesses boom or struggle to survive?
And does the spring statement have real impact, or is it just political posturing?
GB News brings you the analysis that matters. Just what it means for your money, your home, your future.
The Spring Statement 2025, Wednesday on GB News.
At 8:47, we're taking you through the papers with Deputy Political Editor at the Mail on Sunday, Anna Mikulova, and the broadcaster, Alex Dyke. Morning.
Anna, let's go to a lovely story that, you know, the Deputy Political Editor of the Mail on Sunday is bound to be very interested in. It's the front page lead of The Star.
Absolutely. So The Star has done some quite investigative research, it appears, and has found that 1.3 million of us snore so loudly that our neighbours are complaining. You'd be shocked to hear that men get more complaints than women, although women still get complaints.
Women do snore.
They do, but not as much.
Do you snore, Alex?
Apparently I'm a snorer.
Yeah.
But my wife snores. Oh, she's going to hate me for saying that on
Oh,
live
yeah, you shouldn't
TV.
say it. He didn't say that.
No.
He didn't say that.
But isn't this really to do with obesity being more of a problem now than it ever
Is it?
was? Yeah, I think so.
It's certainly a factor.
Thickening of the neck, obstructing the airwaves. I'm not a doctor.
Well, a GP is quoted in the story saying that one of the ways to solve this is to lose weight. But still, I know a lot, well, not a lot of people, but I know people who snore who are...
Nothing going on. I know that we... skinny people do snore.
Personally, exactly. I've not seen the correlation that it is to do with weight.
And it is astonishing how loud snoring can be. I mean, clearly, if it wakes the neighbours,
Yes, but are these
it must be
people
very
that are
loud.
living in flats with balsa wood paper-thin walls? It can't be a proper semi-detached house, can it, where it's going through to next door? Could it?
No.
But it's saying some of this snoring is as loud as a Black Sabbath concert.
That's loud.
And better
Some
than a
people
Black
are very
Sabbath.
loud. Some people are very loud. But snoring, it's fine. Some men are a little bit loud with snoring. My mother is always described as she's like a pig hunting for truffles.
Oh, what a lovely thought.
No, well, that's
But
quite
why?
nice, though. It's just...
Why are we ashamed of it?
I don't know. We shouldn't
It's just
be.
not a very pleasant sound, is it? It's not like the purring of a cat, is it?
No, but nevertheless, it's a medical problem. But why are we ashamed of admitting that we snore?
Because I just think it...
Everybody snores. The dog snores. The cat snores.
The dog snores?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, our bedroom's a nightmare. There's 4 of us in there, all snoring.
Oh, it sounds wonderful.
Sometimes the dog is the loudest snorer of anybody.
Could be your neighbour. OK, well, that's an
there you
interesting
go. That's
one.
enough Dixon
Meanwhile,
Towers information.
Alex, tell us, because we're all very worried about how Prince Harry is going to make any money. But he's got another Netflix deal.
Yes. Now, I don't know how many... This I would imagine there's a long contract and the Sussexes have got to do this show and that show to fulfil it. But this one is interesting. I think it's interesting. I mean, they haven't been box office, have they, for Netflix?
No.
But Prince Harry is apparently been offered a new contract for another documentary which will follow the story of Princess Diana's death.
Oh,
The
Lord.
documentary would mark the 30th anniversary of her passing. But I think at the root, and what do I know, but I think at the root of all of Harry's problems is the delayed shock, trauma of losing his mother. And I think if they do this and he sits down with a psychiatrist, it could be, and I'm not suggesting they will do that, it could be very, very revealing, because there was someone who was very, very popular with the British people and people around the world who seems to have dropped off the edge of a cliff now, and I think it's a great shame. I know he annoys people, and sometimes he annoys me, but I think if you went through what that poor boy went through in 1997...
Well, William did.
Yeah.
William did, and William hasn't turned out like
But
that.
everyone was particularly shocked by the vision of Harry walking at the age he was.
People are different, Stephen, aren't they? What may how trauma may affect you might affect me in a different way.
Yeah, I know, but if he has got... Well, I'm sure he has. I'm sure you're right. I'm sure he is traumatised by it all. However, sitting down with a psychiatrist or anything else in front of a TV camera is not the way to handle it.
Side of it, yeah.
No, but it might help soothing. I think maybe what he wants to do is get his story, his side of it across. And if he did it in a positive way rather than criticising members of his family, he might at least win some love back.
But it's damaging even by the very nature that he can do that and Prince William can't.
Well, that's what I was going to say. How is Prince William going to feel about this? His brother, and they clearly don't get on and they've fallen out over a lot of things, his brother is going to sort of justify his Netflix
but it can't be any worse than what he said
exploiting the memory of his mother.
But it can't be any worse than what he said in the book Spare, can it?
Well, I hope not.
No, I think he just needs to shut up, frankly. You're not helping anyone, Harry. Meanwhile, Anna, Sunday Telegraph. Stephen Hawking benefited from slavery, apparently, when he was at Cambridge, because he could use funds that were slavery-derived 2 centuries before he was there.
Yes, so it appears that in the world of academia, all of those woke things are continuing just as they were, as if nothing is happening in the world outside of it. But the Fitzwilliam Museum, which is obviously a very famous museum in Cambridge, has an exhibition which specifically describes the injustices of money that came from slavery-derived funds that were then given to Cambridge and that scientists, including very famous scientists, including, they say, Stephen Hawking, then benefited from.
Centuries later.
Yes. The museum says it's extremely important to not ignore this or minimise it, but even academics within Cambridge have complained because they say they've actually misread the history and are misrepresenting it.
Alex?
I just think it's crazy. So I just think it's crazy and disrespectful to the memory of Stephen Hawking, who did so much good for the world.
Just you can't... When do you let go of this? I mean, yes, awful things did happen, of course it did. But when do you let go? When do you stop the money trail? You can't... you could carry it on ad infinitum if you wanted to, couldn't you?
Well, that seems to be it, and I think you do have this side of academia where it's interesting. All of this came from America. It's all started in the American universities, then trickled down to all the British universities. In America, there's now been quite a significant backlash, and it's one of the things that's fueled Donald Trump's return to the White House. And the question is, at what point the backlash will probably come over here as well? I mean, it already has, but it is interesting to see that in the universities themselves, of course, this is the museum, that's still ongoing.
OK, look, good to see you both. Thank you very much indeed. Here's the weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Another changeable day is on the cards for many of us. Rain gradually starting to ease, but there will still be some heavy showers around. The rain that we've seen across the northern half of the UK is gradually going to ease as we head towards the afternoon. Still rather cloudy for much of northern England, eastern parts of Scotland, but where we do see some sunshine, particularly across the southeast of England, we are likely to see some quite heavy showers bubbling up through the afternoon. There could be some thunder and hail mixed in here too, perhaps some localised flooding in places. And for northwest Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, there will be some sunshine too. Another mild day, temperatures well above average in the south, 17, 18, perhaps 19 degrees. And even in the north, those temperatures a little above average for the time of year. Into Sunday evening, we see those showers persisting for a time across the southeast, so continuing to see some heavy downpours in places and really quite cloudy across much of England and Wales through Sunday evening. Across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, though, plenty of clear skies to end the day, but generally a little bit cloudier across the northeast of Scotland, so some outbreaks of rain for Shetland and Orkney for a time. As we go through the rest of Sunday evening, any of those showers we see across the very far south gradually start to push their way offshore, so turning a little drier for much of and Wales into the start of Monday morning, perhaps the odd outbreak of rain across the very far southeast. But further north, a much drier picture and plenty of clear skies on offer for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland. And likely to turn quite chilly here, perhaps a touch of frost in places, but generally staying that little bit milder under that cloud further south and further east, temperatures in the high single figures. So a bright but chilly start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, a cloudier start across England and Wales, but that cloud gradually starting to fizzle out as we go through the afternoon. So some sunshine developing here, maybe one or two isolated showers, but it should be staying dry for most places. That sunshine turning hazy across the northwest though as we see this weather front arriving, so some heavy downpours across northwest Scotland, and temperatures will be down a touch on what we saw over the weekend, but still a little above average for the time of year.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could be a spring winner, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag and not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Do you know what the little green huts dotted around central London are? I went to Grosvenor Gardens earlier this week to visit one.
Excuse me, sir. There's a green building there.
Yeah.
Have you any idea what it's for?
No idea. No. What is it? Do you know?
Dotted around central London are elegant green huts, which are as distinctive of the metropolis as the red and blue roundels that stand above underground stations. These little structures are celebrating 150 years of gracing the urban landscape. But I wonder how many people notice them or could tell you what purpose they serve. Do you have the London knowledge to say what their use is? Hello, are you the famous Sue?
I'm Sue, yes. Lovely to meet you.
Oh, lovely to see you. Now, how long have you worked here?
This October will be 22 years.
And what is this?
So this is a taxi hut that was put up in the 1800s. There were several of them plotted around London, but sadly I think there's only about 13 left at the moment.
John, do you find yourself using the taxi shelters very much?
You know, the food's good, it's cheap, and, you know, you've got all of your friends in here and people that you have a little bit of banter with. You know, have a nice bit of food and drink and a bit of fun. During the day, if you know, where you can't stop on the streets for parking restrictions, the shelters, we've all got our own parking.
Is it a good amenity for you?
Fantastic. The food, everything is fantastic. The boys, the light-hearted badinage, the entertainment, and most of all, the girls who serve us. How they put up with it, I don't know.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. The Chancellor takes an axe to the civil service.
Rachel Reeves is set to slash more than £2 billion from government departments, and that could see tens of thousands of people out of work.
Well, not surprisingly, it's put ministers at loggerheads with unions who say public services will suffer.
So is Labour's drive towards efficiency, frankly, taking a page out of President Trump's playbook?
Elsewhere, the impact of Britain's asylum crisis is exposed as councils express concern over outbreaks of violence on our streets.
And a probe is launched into Heathrow's shutdown following that major power outage and the fire at the electricity substation. They say flights are resuming, but we're all asking now, could it all have been avoided?
Well, passengers are breathing a huge sigh of relief that normal service has been resumed, while behind the scenes, 2 investigations are beginning to take place to uncover what happened on Friday with that fire at the substation. But one Labour peer says that the situation paints Heathrow as a laughing stock, and wondering what is going to become of these reports. Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall overhauls the welfare system. We know that's happening, so we send our reporter Anna Riley to Leeds to find out how the cuts could affect you.
Pope Francis is set to be discharged from hospital today after battling with pneumonia for well over a month.
And over 60% of Gen Z believe there's an increase in hatred towards women since Donald Trump took power.
Another day of wet weather is on the cards for many of us, but there is some sunshine and dry weather in store next week. Join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
Just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. A lot of people have got thoughts about Prince Harry making the Diana documentary. That it's part of his Netflix contract that I suppose he has to deliver programmes for the money. And they've come up with that one. They want him to make a documentary reflecting the 30th anniversary of her death, which will be coming up in 27. Somebody says if it's done properly, that Diana documentary, it may go a long way to healing Harry. William was older and he leaned towards more stable family members. And of course, you have to remember that once he got to know Kate as well, he apparently is very close to her parents too. And maybe he is more deeply rooted on the ground, as it were, than Harry has ever been.
Well, yes, very likely. I just think, and it's always doing anything in public. I know they live their lives in public.
Well,
Harry said he hates all of that. It was, they wanted some privacy, didn't they? Exposing all of that about Diana. Is that going to help him, or is it just going to make it worse?
The thing is, for Netflix, who clearly want to keep them on board, that's their major platform, I suppose, that when he made the documentary about polo, nobody watched it.
Nobody cared.
I mean, who the heck is interested, really? Other than people already interested in polo, and they know him anyhow. So the only value he really has to Netflix is royal. And with Diana's the 30th anniversary of Diana's death coming up, I suppose it's an obvious one they've asked him to do.
But then that is basically Harry being exploited.
Yes, it really is.
And he should see that. I mean, it's for the benefit of Netflix, not the benefit of Harry. And he'll get criticism over it, which he then will take very personally.
And it might even make him even more remote from the royal family, because they probably won't like the idea of him doing it.
No.
I mean, would it say new things about the circumstances of her death?
Well, it must do. It must be something, otherwise why do it? It's better leaving...
Don't do it, Harry.
It can't be that desperate for money.
No, I know.
They've earned tens of millions of pounds over the last few years.
But, do you know, the circles they move in, because Gwyneth Paltrow is just down the road, for instance, and she said a few things about Meghan's, home styling programme that aren't necessarily that friendly. She is worth an absolute fortune, far more than Harry and Meghan have got.
Oh, really?
Far more, when you look at the figures, yeah. And I think those are the circles that they mix in. So, they're actually poverty-stricken compared to some of their friends.
Can I just say, because I've just spotted this from Teresa, saying, Stephen, your continued hatred of Harry is part and parcel of today's problems. Honestly, I do not have hatred for Harry.
Really?
I feel so sorry for Harry, actually, in a way that he's ended up... You can see what he's reaching for. He's just going about it in the wrong way. So when I say, Harry just needs to stop, it's not actually a criticism. It's for his own benefit. So I disagree with that, Teresa.
If I were part of an organisation advising him, they may not take advice, of course. What he did with the Invictus Games, he could do more of that sort of thing. I mean, don't we all admire the fact that he did serve his country? He served in a war, and the Invictus Games has been a wonderful thing to do. Couldn't he do more of that sort of thing?
Well, you'd think so. It's about channeling. It's about channeling positive stuff, isn't it? Rather than the negative stuff. It's the negative stuff that gets him headlines, that sells stuff on Netflix, but it's not good for him. Actually, it just isn't good for him.
But certainly, there's no hatred of Harry from either of us.
No. I just wish he'd be. I just wanted to be happy, quiet and happy and settled. And
isn't that what you want for anybody, really?
No, you would do, wouldn't you? Anyway, look, let's crack on with our main news this morning, because the Chancellor is going to order the civil service to cut more than £2 billion annually from its budget.
And it's part of a government spending review in which departments apparently are going to be asked to reduce their admin fees by 15%.
Yeah, but guess what? There's been a backlash by union bosses already. They're warning that tens of thousands of jobs will be at risk. Well, that's the point of the cuts, isn't it?
Yeah. But they are human beings, and they're probably represented by unions too. So, Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, are they actually following the same efficiency drive we see happening in America?
Well, ahead of her show at 9:30, let's talk to Camilla Tominey. Morning to you, Camilla.
Morning.
It's just fascinating watching the Labour government in action at the moment in the run-up to the spring statement, because are they really a Labour government?
Good question. Also, it's interesting, isn't it? One man's austerity is another person's efficiency. And I think when it comes to cutting the civil service, I actually spoke to Pat McFadden about this, who's leading this kind of Doge-like drive to reduce numbers. The staffing has gone up, there's no doubt about that. Back in 2016, there were about 380,000 civil servants working full-time. Now there's 515,000. You have to ask yourself, well, does the country run any more efficiently now than it did back then? In fact, public sector productivity is still down. It's not recovered since the pandemic. So that's a problem. And I think the way that Rachel Reeves is trying to package this for Wednesday is to talk about things like administrative costs, because they don't want to be tagged with the austerity word. However, the biggest threat to them really is going to come from within. It's going to be left-wing MPs complaining about the idea that unions are now saying there's going to be job losses. Any sense that they're cutting public spending is obviously going to go down badly with the left of the party. But she doesn't have very much wiggle room. This is the trouble. You know, borrowing costs are up by 23 billion on what was predicted. That growth forecast by the OBR is set to be halved from 2 to 1%. These are all questions I'm going to be asking her deputy, Darren Jones, who's the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, and see whether we can navigate our way through this minefield, as you say, Stephen, of the Labour government not quite being what perhaps lefties voted for. But at the same time, let's not over-exaggerate this. Even when you look at the welfare cuts, which again provoked a backlash from some backbench MPs, it's still just a drop in the ocean. I mean, all those welfare cuts mean, and they're less than the Tories had pledged, is that the welfare bill, instead of going up by 49 billion in the next 5 years, it will just go up by 44 billion. It's not really even a cut, it's almost like a growth reduction.
There is some interesting positive news from Rachel Reeves, though, at least that's the way it's looking this morning. So she's telling school leavers that they don't have to flail around just taking benefits. They could actually go out and get themselves a job, or at least an apprenticeship, learning for a job in the building trades.
Yes. Well, to be fair, I think many people listening and watching this will have heard anecdotally of a shortage of bricklayers, people with specialist skills. My brother works in the building industry, and he says they're always short of plasterers and people that can do ornate architraves and things like that. So I think that's a great thing. So they're wanting to create 60,000 more jobs in construction. But this is the other dilemma for Labour. You know, we've got a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, including construction firms, saying that they've been absolutely clobbered by the budget, that they can't afford that rise in national insurance contributions, and therefore they're reluctant to hire. You know, the employment numbers aren't looking too badly at the moment, but if you speak to businesses anecdotally, they say they're putting on a recruitment freeze. And this also comes into play when it comes to bringing people out of benefits and into work. That only works if you've got businesses hiring. And the overall sense is that actually Chancellor Rachel Reeves and the Labour government sort of wants to tax business until the pips squeak. You know, I've been doing a series on the show. I've asked lots and lots of SMEs, Can anyone tell me anything positive that's happened to their business since the budget? And no one can. So to get the counter-narrative to all this, I'm also going to be speaking to Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride. On the welfare front, I've got former Tory leader Ian Duncan-Smith coming in. Now, he's interesting because he's the architect of universal credit. And I'll be very intrigued to find out what he makes of these welfare cuts. Because when he was in office, he managed to cut the welfare bill by, wait for it, £31 billion.
Wow.
5 billion by comparison. And think about all the fiscal headroom she would gain. If you look at the pie chart of where all of the taxpayer money is spent, the biggest chunk is on benefits. It's bigger than the chunk we give towards healthcare. Consider that.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's stunning, isn't it?
I'll tell you what, just before we let you go, Camilla, can you clear something up for me? It's one of my... I had Luke Pollard, the Minister, on the show on Thursday or Friday, and he said, one important thing is that we're sticking to our manifesto commitment of only having one budget a year.
Yes.
Right, now,
well,
so how does this work? So what is the spring statement if it's not a budget?
Well, this is the thing, OK? It's meant to be kind of downgraded, more short address to the Commons and the country about the state of the nation's finances. And you remember some chancellors do the spring budget and an autumn statement. Rachel Reeves decided to do that autumn budget because she wanted to make her mark as soon as she came into power. The Tories are saying this isn't a spring statement, it's an emergency budget, which is a good piece of politics. Hard to tell what it is really, but let's be honest, I think the economic circumstances that we're facing, and I'll speak to the economist Gerard Lyons, who's going to come on the show later, it's not looking particularly good. Some people are claiming we're in a GDP per capita recession, not a full recession, but if you look at GDP per capita, we are in the negative. And therefore, I think there is an onus on her to address the Commons because the budget seems to have had that quite negative economic reverberation. But mark my words, there'll be a lot of the world has changed. The circumstances have changed since we came into power. Donald Trump. I will ask both Darren Jones and Gerard Lyons about the Trump effect, but we're going to be hearing a lot of that kind of narrative, I think, because Labour doesn't want to take responsibility for some of the economic impact of the budget over the course of the last 7 months.
Yeah, it's all about change of words, isn't it? There's no austerity, it's efficiency. There's no budget, it's a statement. They're using different words, but I think we can see through it.
Politics for you. Camilla, thanks very much indeed. See you at 9:30.
Which brings us to our poll of the day. Today we are asking, is Rachel Reeves right to wield the axe on civil service jobs? Interesting one. It depends whether you're a civil servant or not, I suppose. Anyway, of course, the poll will be going on through the day. Final result will be announced a bit later on in Nana Aqua's show. For all the latest polls and news and how to vote, etc., go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, passengers have been told that cancellations and delays at Heathrow are expected to last for the rest of today, in fact, into this coming week, after it was shut down on Friday.
Meanwhile, it's emerged that the CEO, the boss, allegedly went to bed and had a good sleep whilst the fire at the nearby substation was raging on through the night and, of course, causing terrible effect, leaving hundreds of thousands of people in the midst of absolute chaos.
Well, an urgent internal review into the closure of Heathrow has been launched alongside a government investigation.
Yeah, let's go over to Heathrow now, where we're joined by GB News reporter Tony Maguire. What more can you tell us, Tony?
Hey, good morning. Well, I think today may be the first day that passengers are able to breathe a huge sigh of relief as service generally returns to normal. Heathrow and British Airways both saying that today they expect a full schedule of flights to take off and land at the airport just 48 hours after that fire at the electricity substation brought the airport to an absolute standstill. Of course, we know now that, in country, around 200,000 passengers were affected. But actually, if we look globally, all the flights that were supposed to come into Heathrow, then that number is closer to 300,000. Now, a couple of days later, we have Ed Miliband. He's wanting to launch a government review to look at what happened at the substation and why this obviously reacted the way it did over the next course of the following 24 hours with Heathrow's closure. Meanwhile, we've also going to have an internal review led by former Transport Secretary and Heathrow board member to look into the reasons there. And this is all based on the operational resilience of Heathrow Airport. Why is it that that one substation was a single point of failure to have the reaction that it did? There are 2 other substations that feed into Heathrow, and while Heathrow is currently running on that backup supply, well, certainly they are going to have to do some re-engineering to make sure that those other 2 substations can feed into and run the whole airport. All of this, of course, with the news that around 10 years ago, Heathrow was advised that this single point of failure could have catastrophic events because of the way that the substations were connected to the airport. So they had the knowledge there that this could have been a reality, and then of course 2 days ago the worst case scenario happened, and the airport chief executive thought the best way to deal with it was a quick nap in bed at night while the staff all managed with the situation. What do you say about that?
Oh, well,
there are no words, are there?
No, all right, Tony, thanks very much indeed. Catch up with you throughout the day. We've got lots more still to come. First of all, let's just remind you of the Great British Giveaway, because the clock is ticking on this one. Designer watches, designer bags, £17,777 in tax-free cash. Here's how you enter.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could be a spring winner, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag and not 1, but 2 sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation. You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This spring, the Chancellor steps up to the dispatch box to make a statement. But what kind of statement will it be?
Taxes, spending, growth, benefits, cost of living. What's changing? And more importantly, how does it affect you?
Does she have the headroom to make headway?
Will it ease the squeeze or tighten the grip?
Will businesses boom or struggle to survive?
And does the spring statement have real impact, or is it just political posturing?
GB News brings you the analysis that matters. Just what it means for your money, your home, your future.
The Spring Statement 2025, Wednesday on GB News.
Now, spring budget's next week, or spring statement, we should say.
Yeah, it's definitely not a budget.
No.
That's despite the Work and Pensions Secretary, Liz Kendall, unveiling major welfare reforms which narrow the eligibility. Is that right?
Eligibility.
Thank you. For the PIP payments.
What does that mean for all of us, though, if you're claiming those at the moment or in need of them? Anna Riley's in Leeds for us. Morning, Anna.
Good morning to you both. Yes, well, the government say that they hope to save £5 billion by 2030 by making cuts to disability payments and limiting the personal independent payments for disabled people. I'm joined now by Anastasia Tempest. Anastasia, you've got cerebral palsy. You need a wheelchair to get around. And what are your concerns around if you had your personal independent payments restricted?
If I had the personal independence restricted cut, it would cause me a lot of problems because it means I have less money for my needs. For example, I need a new wheelchair. It's not enough. It's a relatively small amount of money. I have to put the washing machine, the dryer. I do an awful lot of drying, and principally at the moment I have a serious problem with my wheelchair. It's not working properly, so every 3 years or even 2.5 years sometimes I have to change that, so it's really, really difficult. I think what happens is that PIP can actually often be misunderstood, and it seems that there are some people who apply for PIP who really shouldn't apply for PIP, like if somebody is an alcoholic, just to give an example. And I find that very concerning. I didn't ask to have cerebral palsy. It's hard work, even the level of cerebral palsy that I've got. I know there's different levels, but even at my level, I find it very, very hard work. And I'm actually looking to see if I can find some work.
On that, they've said that they want to give £1 billion towards getting disabled people into work. Do you think that would work for you?
I think it's a good idea for some people who can do some work, even if it's a little bit of work. There's an organisation, however, called Pathways to Progress. Now, that scheme is come to an end at the end of March, which is... Yeah.
Thank you, Anastasia. We'll just have to cut it there, but thank you so much for speaking to us. So that's Anastasia's take here in Leeds on those cuts.
OK, thanks very much indeed, Anna.
Right, the time is ticking on, so that's it from us. Thank you so much for being with us this lovely Sunday morning. Do stay tuned, though, because up next, Camilla Tominey.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Another changeable day is on the cards for many of us. Rain gradually starting to ease, but there will still be some heavy showers around. The rain that we've seen across the northern half of the UK is gradually going to ease as we head towards the afternoon. Still rather cloudy for much of northern England, eastern parts of Scotland, but where we do see some sunshine, particularly across the southeast of England, we are likely to see some quite heavy showers bubbling up through the afternoon. There could be some thunder and hail mixed in here too, perhaps some localised flooding in places. And for northwest Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, there will be some sunshine too. Another mild day, temperatures well above average in the south, 17, 18, perhaps 19 degrees. And even in the north, those temperatures a little above average for the time of year. Into Sunday evening, we see those showers persisting for a time across the southeast, so continuing to see some heavy downpours in places and really quite cloudy across much of England and Wales through Sunday evening. Across parts of Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, though, plenty of clear skies to end the day, but generally a little bit cloudier across the northeast of Scotland, so some outbreaks of rain for Shetland and Orkney for a time. As we go through the rest of Sunday evening, any of those showers we see across the very far south gradually start to push their way offshore, so turning a little drier for much of England and Wales into the start of Monday morning. Perhaps the odd outbreak of rain across the very far southeast, but further north, a much drier picture and plenty of clear skies on offer for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland, and likely to turn